There we go. Okay, go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you. I bought the Winsor Newton Professional Ultramarine Blue, Alizarin
Yeah,
Crimson, and yellow ochre, but I don't like the yellow ochre. What would be another yellow that you could put the mix together there?
you don't like the yellow ochre. Okay. Um,
Don't. I like a
it's,
more blue yellow, but can you mix a blue yellow with those two warm?
do you mean like a colder yellow?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so the yellow ochre is quite warm. You would, there's a lemon yellow
Okay.
or a cadmium yellow, really.
Okay.
Because that's the difference. Let me just
But I like the pigments. They're lovely.
yeah, they're tried and true for years and years. Okay, so um just get my little pointer stick around. I can't find it. Um so that's the yellow ochre, right? Beautiful warm
Right.
yellow. And that's just a cadmium yellow. It's a very
Okay.
pure yellow. So if you're looking for those brighter colors, then you can go with that. I would
Thank
I
you.
would just go with a cadmium yellow. It's a pretty standard primary.
Good. Oh, I see masking on your table.
Yes, I'm gonna do a
Oh,
little demo this morning.
good. Thank you. Thanks, Jenna.
Let me get back to seeing everybody. Good morning, Janine.
Good morning.
Good morning, Connie, Louise. It's been a busy day here already. Yeah, if you guys have any questions right now, we can definitely field a few questions with the recording on. So, good morning, Dominique. Oh, I saw you. Now I don't. There you are. Good morning.
Thanks, Felice. Good morning.
Good morning, Jenny.
Morning.
It'd be so nice to have everybody actually in a real live classroom together, but I really um, appreciate being able to accommodate people from coast to coast and beyond. And there are limitations to, doing a workshop and doing demos in a situation like this, but there are also benefits in the fact that, we grow our audience wider and you guys get to know each other a little better when you're able to be in different places. So, yeah.
I have a question, but I'm not sure if is my mic on?
Yes, your mic's on, Janine. Yeah.
Okay. So like I've taken online classes before where there's like a little community group that you can chat with, but as soon as the class is over, that's over. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if like we have such a wonderful range of people and across the country. Are we still able through this app? Because I'm new to this app, can we still post and chat and all that, or is it done
Yes.
after today?
Yes. No, you absolutely are going to be able to stay in this group for quite a while. What I'm thinking I might do, because there are a number of groups that I have set up that have taken this workshop throughout the years.
Mhm.
And what I may do at some point is take everybody and put you all together in a pocket watercolor journaling space together. So that way you will be able to connect with others who um, have taken the course along the way or have other interests. And the also my intent is to do some additional demos that kind of live on their own in the pocket watercolor journaling world, because there are often so many questions. And Irene was really great yesterday, like, wait a minute, I need to know, how do I actually paint? Like, how do I
Yeah.
actually use the
Mix.
medium? So
Yeah.
to me, it was like, oh yeah, you know what? There's a bunch of stuff that is really important for beginners to know how to do. So I kind of had to move my brain back a little bit and go, okay, all of the things that we need to learn how to do, just some basic skills and being able to use watercolor and
Yeah.
manipulate watercolor beyond the practice of watercolor, pocket watercolor journaling. So over the next few days, it's a very busy time at the farm, as you can well imagine. It's, the long weekend's coming up, planting is imminent. But I do have I do have my sort of my demo stage set up. So I'm going to create a few beginning demos, maybe anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. So you can go in and look at those, and then I'll build a little bit of um, a lesson area around that, which I think will be really, really helpful for you. So if you can think of anything, like this is not a full watercolor course. I could design something like that, but now for me is not the time, because of farm work and some paintings that need to be finished. So but I think that will help give you a little more information on, some of the things that you're asking about. And this
Absolutely.
morning, I'm going to show you how to apply masking medium. We'll start the morning off that way.
I actually bought some masking medium, but
Yeah.
from Amazon actually.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's half liquid, half kind of, I think it might
Yeah.
be bad. Like it's like a big ball of gum in the middle. So I'm
Yes.
assuming that it's just old and is there anything you can add to it to re-liquefy it? No, just
There
okay.
isn't.
Okay.
And in fact, because I don't paint in watercolor a lot anymore, I have to, every time I do one of these, I have to actually buy a new bottle of
Okay.
stuff because it does dry quickly and gums up. What you can do, you can go into the bottle with like the end of your brush
Yeah.
and try to fish out the gummy stuff that's
Okay,
there.
I wasn't sure. I was gonna do that, and I thought, well, maybe it's supposed to be like that.
Yeah,
And
no.
I was able to play with some of it. Like, there's enough liquid of it that I can. But I was like, maybe I just didn't know. Like, maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. But
No,
didn't
it's
seem right.
not. It's
Okay.
partly drying out. So
Okay.
so what you can do, because you're not going to use it right away right now. So normally I would not suggest that you shake those bottles because it just
Okay.
creates a problem with air bubbles in the medium itself.
Okay.
But because your bottle's in the shape that it's in, I'm going to put you on spotlight.
Okay.
And just hang on, I have to turn off this Zoom notification. Oh, it needs my face. There we go. Okay. I should turn off the phone because my kids and my husband, I don't know, they forget that I'm working and they'll call. So let me spotlight you and see if you can hold it up to the classroom. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's just one brand of it. I have the Winsor and Newton one. So
Yeah, this is just really, it was like super cheap because I thought I just want to play with it
that's
and
perfect.
do
It's
something
perfect.
with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
super cheap.
Yeah. So I want you to just shake it up
Okay.
now, and then after a little while you can open up anytime, but shake it up so that it'll mix anything that's in there.
Okay.
I'm not going to shake my bottle because then I won't be able to do the demo. It's not
Okay.
like an
And then
explode.
just fish out that ball of goo in the middle
Yeah,
and
and
chuck
then
it out. Okay.
yeah, and check it out, and then you should be able to use the rest of it. Like play
Okay.
around with
Awesome.
it, experiment with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's a good question for us to start our morning off with because that's I'm going to demonstrate how to use the masking medium, and I will call it a number of different things. When I went to school, it was called Frisket. or Misket, and those were actually brand names way back in the dark ages. And you know, when you go to the art supply store, you'll see bottles of it, and it's called masking fluid. Or, you know, this time when I went to buy it in Westlock at Home Hardware, because they have a art supply area, it's this new bottle is called Permanent Masking Medium. And I was a little bit confused as to whether or not it was going to actually be the same thing. But so they've renamed it and done a bunch of things with it over the years. But we will go over how to use that. And basically, it's in order to preserve the white of the paper underneath a broad wash of watercolor. Anything that you want to keep white. And it's kind of fun to play with. So I want you to learn how to use that and know how to use that. Yeah, so yeah, if you have to leave, you can come back in, no problem. Good morning, everyone. I guess we're ready to get going. Shelley says Mona Lisa in Calgary is going out of business. Yeah, which is really sad. So you can go there and see what else they might have if you're in the Calgary area.
Janice?
Yes.
Hi. Sorry. I know you're. I know you want to get going. I made a mistake and bought water-based glue called Mod Podge. That's not the same thing, is it?
I have no idea what that is. So,
I don't either.
yeah.
So I didn't buy the masking medium because I want to buy the right one, and I also, one of the things that you suggest, I think I'll get the dots, buy a dot page, because I don't have very much paint, and with the paint that I do have, even though they're both in tubes, or they're all in tubes, it's some is dry and some is wet, and so those, I would like those questions answered. Thank you. That's all. I'm done.
Which question? Sorry, I heard lots of statements there, but no questions. What was your question?
I need to know what it is to buy, because I never know what, like, I don't want to buy the wrong thing, because I bought this Mod Podge thinking it was masking fluid or something else.
So what you want to know is how to buy a dot card?
Well, no, I'll buy the dot card. I know, but just that way, because I mean, one of the things I need to know is how thick to paint my watercolor, because I was putting way too much paint on my watercolor.
All right. Okay. So I started off our question period this morning a little early, which is probably, I shouldn't do that. But there will be many of those questions answered in upcoming small videos. Okay.
Okay.
So I went, because I was going through all of the class questions this morning, and honestly, a lot of what some people are asking has to do with actually watercolor painting versus pocket watercolor journaling. There is a big difference between those two things. And I don't currently have a class that's online to teach you how to do watercolor, but I was thinking about that last night, and I thought, you know, one of the best ways to learn is actually to go step by step through with the same supplies and the same composition, and create a painting that has all the different techniques in it. So I will put my mind to that over the summer. The farm is going to start ramping up very quickly with a planting and stuff. So my time has to shift from the studio to the land. And I will endeavor to do a few small videos around the how-tos of watercolor for this particular class. So if you can just rewatch the first 10 minutes of the class where I was answering some of those questions, Becky, I think that will help clarify how information is going to come out. But pocket watercolor journaling cannot be everything watercolor. Do you see what I'm saying? So I will work on a few basics for people to get started so that you have some idea how to handle a brush, how to load a brush with pigment, how to tape down paper. I did a quick video about that this morning. And I'm going to do a demo right now to show you how to use masking medium. Okay. So before I get started, are there any other questions that I could field right away for any of you around anything we did yesterday, or things that you might have done last night or encountered, or things that you might want to share that are like aha moments over the last 24 hours? Marilyn, you're looking
Yeah,
just there.
yeah. Trying to get in there. And yeah, Janice, I was trying because it was raining yesterday, thank God. I hope you get some of it. But it was raining all day, so I sat inside and just looked at the Saskatoons are in full blossom everywhere. And I thought, oh, I'll do a Saskatoon bush. But on a small pocket watercolor, how do you leave that white? And it might resort to today with the masking fluid. I never thought of that traveling with you.
Yeah.
But trying to leave white on a small piece like that
So
is
two
challenging to get all those little blossoms.
Yeah. Okay. So two cautionary notes on that. First of all, watercolor is watercolor. It has a mind of its own. It's going to do whatever the heck it wants to do. And the sooner you let go of the fact that you cannot get a lot of detail without, years of practice and working in dry brush, that may mean that it's another medium entirely different than if it's driving your inner critic crazy, then it's not going to be the one that you want. All right. But when you're working in small scale, and like I have a very small scale little journal, which is maybe 4x6. I love it. Yes, you can use the masking fluid in order to preserve those white areas. And I'll show you now how to do that. Okay. Sound good? You have to let go in watercolor. It's just let it go. Let it go. It's going to do its own thing. It's a very literally fluid type of painting. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or insights? Kathy's looking differently on her morning walk. There's certain colors she just doesn't know how she'd replicate, but yes, that's right. Practice, practice, practice. And working with the palette that you already have is sort of number one. And then I would say purchase a dot card or pick one up. Sometimes art supply stores give them out, and identify maybe one of those special colors. I call them guest colors on your palette, like that opera rose, that will definitely nail that particular color that you're looking for, that you wouldn't otherwise be able to mix with the current palette that you have. Okay. Yes. Haha. Fluid painting. Yes. Watercolor is very fluid. Okay. All right. I'm going to move along and we're going to work on how to apply, I'm going to say it. So excuse me for a sec, because I'm so used to calling it frisket, misket, masking medium. So without further ado, I'll share my video here. And there, okay. So I did a little setup earlier this morning, and a demo that will show up in the classroom area later on how to tape down and wash your paper so that you've got it stretched and ready to go. And this is not something that you can do with your pocket journals. You just have to go with whatever is there. But I'm just going to show you how to do that so that you know how to do that. The other thing I want to do is I want to show you before I get there is show you what I'm using here, which is this longer watercolor block, they call them. And they call them blocks because, as you can see on the end here, there's like a plastic coating that sort of holds all the paper together. And you can actually use these blocks and paint on them the way they are, because it's a bit of a, they're already stretched that way. But every watercolor piece of paper actually has a bit of a, like good watercolor paper will have a bit of a starchy coating on the top of it. So using this block, I'm going to show you how you would separate and take a piece of paper off. And let me just move my camera up and give you a wider view here. So in order to get these sheets off, you just need something to sort of stick in between. And there's a place at the top here where you can get your, I've just got like a blade here, and I'm just going to run that blade carefully so I don't cut the paper around the edge of it. Go the other way. There we go. And that will loosen it from the rest of its paper mates. How funny am I? Here. And so then there's a point where it'll start to just, you can feel it starting to pull away, and you can just run your thumb underneath that and separate it. Now I'm being careful about the edges. I don't want it to tear. So you should never cut watercolor paper. You should always fold it and tear it. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so I have that one sheet loosened, and there is a good side and bad side to these as well. So I know that this is the top edge. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little reminder here on two parts, because I'm split this one in half. So I've got T for top on both of those. So now that I know where my top is, I'm going to fold it over. I'm going to fold it in on itself. And this is, you know, it's thick paper, so you want to be careful and make sure that you kind of pull it till you can fold it at the end there. And then I'm going to turn it around and fold it back in on itself. So I'm giving it a nice squishing there a couple of times. And you can see this nice edge is starting to show up. So in order to, you could try and tear it at that point. But what I do is I'll get my sponge, and I use a natural sponge, dip it in my clear water. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that along the edge there. Just kind of get it a little bit wet and soak it. And I'm going to fold it back in again and do the same thing again here so it softens it. And I know, like, a lot of you probably have seen or purchased, you know, watercolor cards in the store. But this is a way to actually make your own. If you buy a bigger piece of watercolor paper, then you can tear them and use them yourself. Often, one of the things that I do, and I will mention that as we go forward. So see there, it comes apart really nicely. I'm just going to be really careful at that edge there, so I don't want it. There we go. So now I have two pieces of paper, and I'm just going to let that dry. But that's sort of how I get to these smaller pieces of paper. And the other thing that you can do, and how this relates to pocket watercolor journaling, is kind of cool, because you can make postcards out of these. And if you're on vacation and you want to send a postcard home to yourself or to someone else, you can always, you know, use one of these smaller pieces of paper, or take a page out of your journal and send it to yourself. Even it's kind of a nice thing to arrive home to, is something that you did while you were on vacation. Makes coming home a little bit better. So then you see I still have those T's on here so that I know that's the side of the paper that I want to clean or wash off. So that's just how you go about, you know, tearing watercolor paper. And that would go for buying like full sheets, which I think are, I forget, 22 by 30. And it's more economical to buy those great big sheets and then tear them than it is to buy smaller sheets. So just a little bit of an idea around the economy of things. This tape that I'm using, I've taped it down. I've taped my piece of paper that I've cut, like torn. And the demo that I did this morning will show you how I did that and the type of tape that I'm using, which I don't even know which type of tape this is, but it's so old and it's so mushy, but it's, some people will use gummed brown paper tape. I know that Rita, who's in our Loom group, likes that a lot. I personally like this artist tape, and if you go to the art supply store, they will tell you, you know, I have this tape. And I think there's a brand called Pro Tape, which is a cloth tape. It's super sticky. If I recall correctly, I know I don't have any left now. I used it for another purpose, but it's not cheap. It's about $40 a roll, but it works great. So it holds the watercolor paper, and it'll stick to just about anything, any kind of surface that you have. So I have already washed off the sizing that's on the paper, and I've also stretched it. And again, that's in the other video that I'll post later on today. And now I'm at the point where I'm going to do a little design, leave an area that I want to keep clean on my paper in order to be able to create that white area underneath. So I'm going to grab a smaller brush here. This is a Red Sable Raphael Kolinsky brush. I have, honest to God, had this probably for 40 years. Okay, so if you take care of your brushes and you buy good ones to start with, they will last you a lifetime. So I can provide a link for that later. I know that Jackson's Art carries this particular brand. I love them. I think they are great brushes. So to start off with, I'm going to take my little bar of soap that I have. And the reason that my brushes last so long is because I take good care of them. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm just going to get some water on my brush. I've got my 2 jars of water on the side here. One is clean and one is dirty. And I'm just going to get some water in there, swish it around and wash it off. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to work that soap into my brush so that I've got lots of soap on there. And then I'm going to pull and turn. Okay, and so the reason I'm putting the soap on there is to help preserve my brush when I'm using the masking medium, which can be really hard on brushes. So this is the medium that I'm using. It's Winsor & Newton watercolor medium, permanent masking medium, also known as Frisket, Misket, PBO. There's all different kinds of brands. But basically, it's, I think, if I recall correctly, it's a bit of a mixture of, there's ammonia in them. It has it's not a super strong smell, but it smells. And latex. And so what I'm going to do now that I've got some soap in my brush, I'm going to dip my brush in there. And like, I haven't designed anything ahead of time. I'm just going to just start to, I'm gonna go, I think I want a border. So I'm going to pull. Now, some of you were asking before, how do you use your brush? So I'm loading the brush and then I'm pulling the brush. Okay, so I will show you a little bit later on or in a video on how to do a pull with color. But this is one way that you can use a brush. I think it was Lisa. You were looking for ways to use your brush not like a pencil, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it will take you a while to kind of get the, and I'm going to go over that because I don't feel like that is enough. So if you wanted to draw out your, like a little sketch on your paper ahead of time, you can do that. I would say use like an HB mechanical, be really, really light with your touch because you don't want to leave those graphite marks on it, on the paper. My hand is a little shaky this morning. And this, there is, or I have been able to in the past, purchase watercolor masking fluid from Winsor & Newton that is yellow in color. And I like that because I can see where I'm going with it. Like I can see it on the paper, it dries and I know that that's Misket. Or yeah, I'm just gonna call it Misket because it's easier for me. My brain just refuses to call it masking fluid. I don't know why, but that's what it is. Okay. And I'm just sort of going over where that was. And I won't go back to the corner at the top because that'll already have started to dry. So I have a little border there. So that little border will end up being white. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw like a heart in here. It is definitely difficult to see. But I think, Lisa, you can see like how I'm pulling that in most cases. I'm not pushing it.
Yeah, and you're not forcing the color onto the.
No, no, it's a
I'm gonna come-
very,
Oh, I
yeah.
want more color, so I push, and it doesn't look any good.
Yeah, and that's, you know, that will be different for every medium that you use. So like in oils, you'll want to push differently. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So there's going to be, I know, I'm going to know ahead of time that there's a white line underneath that heart area. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to like spackle it. Like, so if you just, there's a really neat technique with the brush to kind of go, just, I've got it loaded with the Misket and now I'm just going to tap it. And it's going to leave these tiny little dots of masking fluid on the paper and varying sizes. So this is a great way to do snow, for instance. I guess I could have done a Christmas card. That would have been different for this time of year, wouldn't it? But when I do winter paintings, this is what I do. I'm just tapping. And it's good to play with this and play with the size of brush that you're using because you don't want to end up with too much Frisket on there and having a great big blob. Although you can use your rubber cement pickup and pick up just that one blob. This is also a really nice way to create texture. So you could do this with paint as well. And I love that because it just kind of breaks things up. Okay, so I kind of like that. And now I've decided, well, I want to do something else with it too. So I'm gonna extend across the one side with that. I'm just, you know, playing around doing a different design so that I can show you later how those things all come together.
Oh, shit.
Oh shit. Who said that?
Sorry.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cap up my watercolor fluid because it does dry up and get that big gummy, actually snotty kind of a mess when it starts to dry out. And I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to wash it in my dirty water first. And then I'm going to pull it because sometimes it hasn't happened today, but in around here where the hairs of the brush meet the end of it, the masking fluid can kind of collect. And so you want to kind of, you can just pull that off. It's not there right now, but I'm just pulling it off. So remember, this is still my dirty water. And now I'm going to go in with my clean water and give it a really good swish so that I'm cleaning all inside of that. And then I'm going to go back to my soap bar, and I'm going to twirl it and work work that soap into the hairs of that fine Russian Kolinsky sable. And then I'm going to turn it and pull it at the same time gently. So I have a nice point with my brush. And then I'm going to put my brush away. So that is a little bit about brush care as well, that you actually leave a little bit of soap and water in your brush. It will dry out and stiffen up a little bit and keep for years and years if it's a good quality brush to start with. So now I have to leave that to dry. I cannot use a hair dryer on that because if I do, it will end up being, it will adhere to the paper. And we don't want that. And we want to be able to pull it off. So that's how you use masking fluid. I had to think about not calling it misket. And that's how you use it. So let me just change my video again. And just field any questions around how to apply masking fluid. You have to think ahead, right? You have to really think ahead as far as how you're going to use the white space and when you're working not quickly as we are in watercolor journaling, but how you want to preserve white areas or other areas that you don't want to cover over. And I'll show you in a minute, a bit of a wash and how that works. But I'm going to get you guys painting first.
Can I
yes.
ask a question, Janice?
First, I'm going to go to Jenny's question.
Okay.
In the chat, and she's asking,
yeah.
Would I suggest keeping a brush solely for the purpose of using masking fluid? Yes, you can. I used to do that because I would have one number 2 Raphael Kolinsky that I just used for doing large paintings. And using a lot of misket, so it would get a little bit of abuse. But if you care for your brushes the way that I just showed you, you don't have to. As long as you're making sure you're getting all that stuff out of it. And the double wash really, it makes a difference.
Okay, and then my other question was you made mention of there's a masking fluid that might have a tinge of yellow.
Yeah.
So does that yellow fade like once you use it? Or?
It doesn't. So the other cautionary note I have around using Frisket or Misket is not to leave it on the paper for more than a week or so, I would say. It can't, if you leave it on for too long, it'll set in and you won't be able to get it off, for one thing. So if you start a painting and leave it for a month and go back and try and work on it, you run the risk of not being able to take that off. You're better off to, take it off and then reapply it if you can. And sorry, what was the question again? Did I answer it? No?
Yeah, it was for the color, the yellow tinged one you suggested.
Yeah.
So does that yellow fade away? So you kind of answered.
Yeah, it won't stain the paper, in other words. Especially like if you get it off, within a week or week and a half or so. Louise is just asking, less is more. And yeah, you don't want big gobs of it on there, but you want to make sure that you have enough. I guess that's the answer to that question. And then Marilyn, you had a question?
You don't use this block on your pocket journaling, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I have lots of watercolor stuff here.
Okay.
Yeah. I use it for making cards and painting or whatever, I use it for a lot of demonstrations in the class. Any other questions?
Yeah, it's Maria. I just said, like, once you put the masking fluid, like, let's say you're somewhere outside and it's super sunny, so it would dry faster, I guess, like if it's, or not really. And can you paint quickly after, like when you're just on the run?
Yeah, you could, but you got to make sure it's dry first,
Okay,
right?
it takes a while to dry.
Yeah, it takes a little while. Like I'm touching it now. Depends on how thick it is. It's still wet. So
Okay, but
yeah.
not that long. Like it's a matter of few minutes, not hours.
Not hours. No, not by
That's
any.
what I was kind of, how do you
Yeah.
play with it when you're outside and you want to
Yeah.
keep going?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, it's about the planning part of watercolor for more complex, difficult pieces that need different strategies. Like for instance, like when I was doing like porches of Victorian homes, I wanted to preserve the white balusters and gingerbread on it. So I would paint that with Misket beforehand so that I had that white preserved all the way through the painting, and I could paint over top of it without affecting that white. Yeah.
And then just for snow, like you did the snow, but like
Yeah.
mountain snow covered, like a line of snow in the mountains, would you use it or try to leave the white? Or both are different techniques, I guess.
No, well, you can just, different techniques. I probably wouldn't use masking fluid for that. I would just keep the snow clean, although I could, like, because if I know I wanted to paint a sky above the mountains, I would maybe paint a line just separating where the snow is. But you can experiment with it. And generally speaking, when you're working with masking fluid, it's going to give you a harder edge rather than if you're blending with your brush and using watercolor the way traditional watercolorists would use it, where you're using wet on wet, you're moving it and manipulating it as best you can, still knowing that it's going to do its own thing. There's all kinds of ways to kind of mitigate that and look at how you do snow. So that, I hope that answers the question. By the same token, I wouldn't do that for a cloud. Like clouds don't have sharp edges. They have nice diffuse edges. Okay. Brenda B. from New Brunswick.
I have one question just about the paper before you said, make sure you mark the correct side. Okay.
Yes.
Well, now you didn't mark the correct side. How can you tell the front from the back?
Okay, so if you have a large sheet of paper, usually there's a watermark on it.
Mm-hmm.
So if the watermark is still on the piece that you're wanting to use, then you'll be able to hold it up to the light and know that the way that it reads, it's going to read that it's Arches paper.
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to know that the top part is the top part and the bottom part's the bottom part. But it's not that big of a deal, really. You will know as you work more and more with papers and watercolor when your paint isn't working the same way that it normally should. I guess that's the only thing that I can tell you, because every paper is going to be different, right? Like cold press paper is going to be different than a smooth hot press paper. And I think that like this is a hot press, so it's more of a smoother feel to it, and it does not have a watermark. So let me just look. So look, if you look really carefully, yeah, there's a difference. So I'm looking at this hot press piece, and the surface of it on the front of the paper is very, very smooth. On the back, it has a little bit more texture to it. So it's very, very subtle, but it's definitely there. So I've got nice bright lights here. I can see that. So then you could go back and compare it to things on in your pad and just see which one looks the same and which one looks different. And then it's a really good way to practice seeing, right? Because it's so
Yeah.
subtle. You have to learn how to detect it and go, oh, which one is which. But yeah, the marking it is really important when you don't have a watermark on all of the pages. Yeah. Yeah. Good question. Kathy has one question, and then we'll move on and we'll go to an exercise together.
So do you just wash it off with that wet sponge to get the sizing off?
I'm sorry, I can hardly hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
A little better, yeah.
Do you wash off the sizing with the wet sponge?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and I did a little demo video that I'll post up later about on how I did that. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right, and a lot of like cheaper quality watercolor paper will not have that sizing on it. You don't have to, it's nothing you have to worry about. It's just a professional practice. That's what I do. I know that it needs to be washed off before I use it, because occasionally, even with, you know, a nice big good sheet of watercolor paper, you can get tiny little anomalies in there that are that don't take the paint the same way. And my experience has been that it's because there is a little more starch on the paper. So if you wash that paper off first, then you'll be able to mitigate any of those little, I call them hickeys or hiccups on the page, where you're putting in, like, say for instance, a great big large wash of a sky that you have to do, and like hold your breath and just like have the paint all ready to go, mix it and do it. So that's one of the things you just want to be careful about when you're washing off your paper. Okay, everybody got their journals ready to go, because we are going to do another page for our another page idea. I'm just going to make sure that this is sort of dry. It's not. It's taken a longer time to dry. You know what? I can hold this up and show you what we're going to do. So one of the ideas that I have that has worked really well for me in pocket watercolor journaling, sorry, I'm moving my tongue around my new dentures here, is what's called a suitcase page. All right, so suitcase pages are really cool because there's a few different ways of thinking about a suitcase page. One can be all the things that you took with you. Another could be all the things that you brought home. And in this case, and it can also be like a suitcase full of memories. But in this case, it's a little bit of everything. So, you know, you can do several pages of suitcase pages for your journey. Like, for instance, Anne, you're going to Australia or New Zealand? Yeah. So, you know, you could do a page ahead of time that's got a list of everything that you pack. For me, in my case, I know I always overpack. So actually doing a suitcase page before I pack is a good idea, because I'm like, I don't need that. I'm never going to use that. Why am I bothering to bring it? So it has a few really good things. And this one is just like, the idea is to really fill the entire page. And so what I've got here, and technique wise, one of the ways to kind of do this is to kind of work and do all of the ink drawings first, and then go in and do the watercolor. Okay, so it just gives you a little more opportunity to, first of all, fill the page with your drawing, give your brain a little bit of time to think about what colors you're going to use and how you're going to create your page, and then to execute the page. Well, not kill it, execute, but, you know, do it. So in this particular suitcase from Haida Gwaii, there's things that I brought home and things that are memories and things that I took, but I think it's mostly things I brought home here. So this is a razor clam. We spent some time digging for clams. That was an adventure. We bought some potlatch mugs from a local potter on island. The bat stars, I did not bring a bat star home in my suitcase, but I brought the memory of a bat star home because it was such, the colors were so vibrant. I always want to remember the bat stars in Haida Gwaii. Bought rings when we were there. We bought a U cutting board for charcuterie, which I don't use now that I think about it. We did not bring home halibut, but we brought home the memory of eating halibut when we were there, fresh halibut right off the wharf. I brought home a sweatshirt. We did bring home some driftwood and some shells and a mug from Jags. And that's the U charcuterie board again showing up. And then I did a lot of painting when I was there. That was the purpose of my visit. So I drew little paintings of my paintings. And ga, which is a delicacy in Haida Gwaii. It's herring eggs on kelp, quite delicious and very salty. I didn't bring home salmon, but we brought home the memory of eating salmon when we were there, and lots of photos. So that's kind of like a combination page. You know, I start usually by drawing the suitcase in the center. It could be a backpack as well if you're going hiking and all the things that you put in your backpack. It could be, for instance, if you're going out plein air painting, one of the great ways to remember all the things that you need for plein air painting is to actually do a suitcase of your plein air painting equipment. And then you just have to refer back to it every time you go outside painting. So a memory page, also a combination suitcase page of, you know, all the things that you're sort of containing is what we're going after here. The other thing that I want to point out to you that I've done here, and I'm going to do a demo for you, is what I call a float. All right, so that's where I'm working sort of wet on wet. So you can see all these colors on the edge, the sort of the yellow sunsetty kind of color. It's not as brilliant on the monitor that I'm looking at as it is in real life. But I will show you how to do that as well. And it's something that can be done after the fact, you know, like when you're in your hotel room later or in your trailer or your camping tent at night painting, whatever. But it can be like an after thing that you do. So I will show you how to do a wet on wet float in another one of my journals. And I may do that actually while you guys are painting and doing your suitcase. I will do the demo. So you don't have to pay attention to the demo because you can just go back in and look at the recording and watch the recording of the float demo. Okay, sound good? So I'm going to give you 20 minutes to do this exercise. It's a little more complex. It requires a little bit more planning. And it has a really incredible outcome. And then we'll share 3 or 4 suitcases that everyone has. And then I have another really exciting page for you guys to put together. Okay. All right. So ready? Any questions around the exercise? Create a suitcase page for your Mary-Ev?
I was just gonna go walk and get me some inspiration.
Sure.
Okay.
And what else was I going to just tell you about? Oh, the other thing about the suitcase page, for those of you who are unable to completely fire your perfectionist and your procrastinator, you can consider using a very light 2H pencil to kind of create the drawings, but I would encourage you not to. I would encourage you to kind of think about it, look at the page in front of you, start with this central suitcase icon, whether it's like a suitcase that you actually use, or whether it's a suit, like a, you know, the proverbial suitcase here, or whether it's a backpack that you have. So start with that. And then as you're working on that drawing, you'll find that you'll have ideas around other things that you're going to create or put into your suitcase. And then just work your way around the page and put them in there and label them so that you know what it is that you're going to use. Yeah. Okay. All right. And you guys can like, I think you can actually mute me if you don't want to listen to me while I'm doing the demo. If you want to do that, you can do that. And I'm going to actually see if yeah, this is all dry. So oh no, it's not quite dry. All right, I'm going to wait a few minutes for that to dry. And I might actually work on this one instead and do a demo for a bit of a float there, or do a demo on the float afterwards. Yeah, I'll leave it up to you guys to work away at your page, and I will see you in a few minutes. I'm just going to get up and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm just going to touch that and feel if it's done drawing. It feels like it is. Okay, so I'm going to actually put some color on this while it's taped down. I think that's probably a great idea, and I can demonstrate how to do a float in the next time you guys are busy painting, and I will paint as well. Okay, so I don't really have any plan with this particular design other than just it's one that I want to be able to do something with so that I can show you how to use the misket and how it actually works out in the end. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually work from the outside in, and I'm just going to select a brush here. I have these square brushes. I really like them a lot. I've had them for a long time. This one's a Winsor & Newton 1/2 inch. It's a kind of a synthetic type of bristle on it, but it holds a lot of water. And like anything, you want to choose the brush that's going to the largest brush for the job. And in this case, this one will work for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just getting my brush loaded with some water. And I'm going to, I'm still being careful. I'm coming up sort of to the edge of where that frisket is. And I'm just going to get my paper saturated with some water. So again, you can see I'm just kind of using that dragging motion, pulling the water across the page. And it's a bit of trial and error to be able to figure out just how much water you need. I can't give you like a formula, like you need this amount of water or that amount of water, but I do like to practice these things before I uh, work with it. And doing this is basically a wet on wet wash. And so the first thing I'm doing is I'm getting all of the area sort of outside of that thin line of misfit border that I've drawn, saturated with some water. And there we go. Okay. Dib, dib, dab, dried my brush off. And now I'm gonna go in with a different brush. I think I will take a photo and show you all of my brushes, although I think I might have already posted that up. But I'm just gonna grab one here. This is a cheap Chinese brush that I bought, and I'm looking at it and I kind of like the size of it at the end here. That's a 10. So I'm gonna go in and I'm going to mix a color, getting my water on my brush first. I kind of like this purple that I already have in my my kit here. There, you can see that. And I'll pull this up a bit. There we go. So you guys can see everything that I'm working with. Okay, so I'm gonna just see that's too much pigment. I don't want that much pigment, so I'm gonna get the water in there, reconstitute that right now, and then I'm gonna go back into my water and just add a little extra water. And that, the process of doing that, oh, I should set the alarm, duh. I guess you guys have been working at this, what, maybe a couple of minutes? I just get so
I
involved.
set my alarm. It's just about 7 minutes.
We're in 7 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you 13 minutes here. Okay. All right, so I have, so this is wet on wet. So this is wet color that I'm working into a already wet area. And I'm going to paint, I'm just gonna drag that in and see, yeah, okay, that's all right. I like the way that's going. So see, you can just see it's flowing off my brush into the watery area around. So I'm just gonna get like a bit of a layer of color on there, try and get it sort of uniform. There's lots and lots of water on there. And I'm just painting up to that line, but because I have that, whoops, might have gone outside, colored outside of the lines, Janice. Oh well, that's fine. Firing my perfectionist, right? So I'm going up to that line and getting it, all of that paint on there. Sort of uniform at this point in time. I'm just really conscious of how it's drying, and that's again something that you're going to have to kind of play around with. But you can see it's mostly a nice even coating, courtesy of the water that is already on there. and it's just kind of flowing around and into the paper, and I love the look of it. So say for instance, I want to make my corners a little bit darker. I'm going to go in and I'm going to get more pigment on the tip of my brush. And I'm going to go to the edges here and I'm going to just sort of dab that around, and you can see it's just the saturation there becomes heavier. So I want it to kind of, and this is what I call a float, is that the color is kind of floating out to the edges. It's getting a little bit heavier in the edge. So when that dries, it will hopefully dry uniformly. Hope is always something in watercolor that we have. We have hope. Our hopes are often dashed, and being okay with that is part of the process. So there we go. Yeah, maybe I don't mind that. I know it's gonna kind of work its own little magic there, but I think what I'm gonna do is actually try and mix a little bit more of that purple and have it a little bit darker. So I'm using the ultramarine blue and a little bit of that alizarin crimson in there. So I've got now a slightly heavier saturation, and I'm still able to kind of work with that a bit because there's still enough water on the paper. If you don't have enough water and it starts to dry up, then you kind of have lost it a little bit, and you just have to go, oh, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. All right. So I guess I do kind of work top to bottom, left to right, or maybe I don't. I don't think that there's any rhyme or reason. I'm just trying to get these corners a little darker. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to leave it and let it do its wild watercolor thing. The other thing I can do, if I wait a second or two, because it's a lot, there's a lot of water on there right now. Is wait a second or two, and then just with water, go along the edge here, which will push that pigment towards the edges and give me a little more bleed towards the edges and a little darker edge to it. So I just kind of got to watch it and see when it looks like it's drying up to the point where I can do that. But I should have this nice crisp edge along the area where the masking fluid is down, except for down here where I colored outside the lines. Okay, yeah, and see, you can see over here the watercolor is starting to move a little bit on its own. So I'm going to go in there now, and I'm going to take some water on my brush. And this is the watercolor of watercolor painting, is when you start to use water to actually move the paint around. It's kind of a groovy thing. Okay, I'm going to go at this edge here, see how it's going to go, see if it'll push it. Might not be 100% dry enough yet. So I'm just going to run a bead of water around the outside of that border. Oh, there it goes. See it move? So I might have just needed a little bit more water there. So it's a really delicate balance between too much water, not enough water, depending on the sort of effect that you want. Okay, there. I'm liking that. I'm just going to let that chill and do its thing right now, because it's going to need to move and dry. At some point, I'll be able to take a hair dryer to that without moving the paint a lot. So that's one way of doing that. And then I'm gonna actually, because I can work on this area in here, I'm going to just check our timing here. Yeah, I got time for this. I'm going to go in and color that heart a little bit. So I'm just taking some alizarin crimson that I have with, you know, like I don't really care. There's a bunch of colors going on in here, and I love that when things kind of move together. And yeah, I like that. It's kind of a nice cherry color. And I'm going in with a dry brush this time. So in other words, I haven't put water around on the heart, but I'm just going to go in and I'm going to paint up to the edges on the heart, kind of keep that live edge moving all the time. So I have a nice uniform color going on. I'm sure that you have to make sure you have enough paint for the area that you're working on. And again, it's a little bit about playing with that and making sure that you have enough paint mixed, but not too much. And the idea here is that you don't want like a hard edge to show up. So there, I'm quick enough. I've got that color down all the way around. And that is like, it's sort of semi-wet, semi-wet. And you can see where the white is going to come through with all those little masking fluid marks. So now I'm going to go in with, I don't know what color this is. Oh, look at that. It's like a dark plum. I'm just going to go around the edge actually and just let that blend and do its thing. In that initial color. I like this brush. It's got a really nice point to it. It holds a lot of paint. So that way I know I've got the right brush for the job. I love it when the watercolor starts to move. It's moving a little more on this side than it is on this side. Do I like that? Not necessarily, but I'm okay with it. How would I try and balance that out? Maybe by cleaning my brush off a little bit with some water. And then going in on this original light color that I did and pushing that and softening those edges a bit, pushing that line back a little bit. There we go. More water. So see, I'm not putting any extra pigment on there. I'm just putting some water on there. And I love what's going on there now because I love the fact that that darker edge is receding back, but blending really nicely, giving me a bit of a value change. There we go. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to leave that and let it dry. And then I have other areas I could probably work on while I'm doing this. I've got 3 minutes left here. So I'm going to go at the top here. I'm going to just do kind of like a blue sky, I guess. So I'm going to put some water down around to where that white biscuit is. So I'm just painting the water in on the background. I'm doing a little less water than I put on the initial purple border around there. Okay, and there's going to be some bleeding going on there because of it's not like a really wide area of the biscuit, but I can push it back with some water. See, that's pushing it back. Pushing the color back, pulling it back up. It's push pull. It's like who knows what's going to happen with it, but I'm like, oh, okay, that's going to be what it is. And then I'm just going to go with some ultramarine blue, I guess, up here in the sky. Again, I want to have lots of water in there. I don't want to go in too dark with the paint. Watercolor is always about layers and transparency. So you can always maybe go a little darker and do a second layer on things rather than going heavy in there with the color, which a lot of you have said has been sort of the difficulty. Is just kind of, how do I work with watercolor and how do I manage, how do I manage the color? So as you can see, it's bleeding downwards and resting against that border. And I think I'm happy with that. I think I'm not going to do anything else on that to move that around. I'm just going to let it do its thing. And let it dry. And like I said, there will be a point where I can go in and I can actually use my hair dryer to blow dry that and speed up the process, but not move the color. And you can also use your hairdryer to move the color if you wanted to. I still have areas here I can work on, so I'm just going to go in and just do a bunch of colors in just plain dry. Oop. All right, I'm just going to check in with everybody and see where you're at. Has everyone got their suitcase page fairly on the go here? Yes? Is anybody ready to present or you're like, yeah. Anyone ready to present their suitcase? Show us what's in your suitcase. What's in your makeup bag? Whatever.
Marilyn, Kim?
Lisa?
Yeah, also after Marilyn.
No, Lisa, go for it.
Okay, I will go with Lisa first, and I see Kathy and Marilyn. All right, so that's
Okay,
I'm gonna spotlight you, Lisa. Okay.
so working on last year's
Oh.
trip to Italy.
Oh, so cool.
So the artichoke isn't finished, but and
Good.
over here, I was so eager to get to painting the palm tree that I dragged some green over the paper. Oops.
Who cares, right?
Yeah. And then I thought, like, this thing would have been better, which isn't a pizza, it's like a charcuterie plate, but would have been better had I had time to underpaint something and dry it and then, put stuff on top. But anyways, maybe not. So yeah.
What are we doing? We are firing our perfectionist. That
Right.
looks like a charcuterie pizza to me.
Yeah, sort of, kind of.
Yeah, but so idea. Like as soon as you label that though, like it becomes evident what it is, right?
Oh, so you labeled.
I do. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, great.
Yes,
so no
absolutely.
Confusion.
Yeah, no confusion. 3 years from now, when you open up that sketchbook and look at it, you will know what all of those things were and the memory will come back to you, right?
Right. And then this spot is empty, but I thought, oh no, leave it. You'll need space.
Okay, I would say fill it. But the other thing that's really, really important about doing this is marking down the dates of your trip and or when you painted it as well. Right. So so just that I think is one of the key pieces with working with suitcases and all of these exercises is that even on the front of the journal I date from June 2021 to July 2022. That's what happened in my life in that journal. So it's really a great way to do it because we all have we used to have albums full of photographs and now we don't. Apparently I have no video on. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Lisa. And then Marilyn.
Okay, so do I turn my camera?
And then I'll do Kathy and Gary, and then we'll move on to our next exercise.
I just have to figure out how I turn my camera here.
You can't just hold it up to the, not that you can't, but hold it up to the,
Okay.
I've got you spotlighted. So just hold up your piece, or is it too wet? Oh, it's big.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not using the journal.
Okay.
Okay, just a river trip. So all the supplies, I guess all the words are backwards. So
Nope, they're good.
ooh. Oh,
I
okay.
see you have a Kevlar canoe in the center, and I can read this out for you. You have 2 throw bags. Those would be like your wet dry bags, right?
No, they're just the emergency throw bags.
Oh, throw bags. Okay. Yep. Your
And then food barrel and all the
yep.
cooking supplies, personal items, and dry bags. Okay, I can't read that one upside down. Pelican case for my cameras and binocs and stuff. Binoculars, cameras.
Art supplies.
First aid supplies, art supplies. I'm taking this year. And
yeah, good.
My paddles and my life jacket, and yeah.
All things canoe
and
trip.
then I threw the river in at the last
yeah one. Beautiful, beautiful. That's fantastic. Good job. And see how much information you got in there in 20 minutes.
It was 23 minutes or something.
oh so you did. Okay, never mind. All right, 23 minutes.
it was
my fault, my bad for not starting the timer. Okay, Kathy.
Okay, can you see? It's I'm planning my next plein air day.
So you have your backpack.
Yeah.
Your bear spray.
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead.
The lawn chair, snacks. Forgot sunscreen last time, so need.
Oh yeah. Very important. And a hat.
Yep.
Your hat, your water bottle, your pocket watercolor journal, your half pans, your brushes, and just lift it up a little bit. Bear spray, of course. And what's on the bottom there? Oh, a lawn chair. And the most important thing when you're going out to paint are the chocolate and the strawberries. Absolutely. Yeah.
I got to share a nice day with Lee and her husband Duncan at Lake Louise.
Yeah. That was awesome. All right.
Don't forget your sunscreen.
Yeah, don't forget it. But see,
Like
now
I
it's
did.
on your list. It's on your suitcase page that's dedicated just to watercolor plein air painting. So, okay, Gary. Okay. Wonderful suitcase.
Thank you.
And are you unmuted, Gary?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there we go. Okay, tell us about what you got here.
This is from a holiday in Northern Ontario last year.
Ah.
So we did lots of hiking and resting our feet. Some swimming, paddle boarding. I did some painting. I do remember lots of fish and chips and ice cream.
Nice.
And some reading.
Oh, excellent. That's great. And so let me ask you this question. When you were kind of going through and making a list of all the things that are sort of like the memories from that trip that you have, was it easy to access them and just find a sort of a symbol that goes with it?
It took some thinking.
A little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, because it was last year. And I said, okay, so where did we start?
Right.
What did we spend a lot of time on? Those are the things that came to mind first.
Right. That's pretty excellent. Excellent. Yeah, that's good. That's exactly what we want, right? So there's different things that you can put in your memory page, the idea of suitcase and like containing everything in there together is kind of a cool and important thing to do. Now let's see, what time are we at here? It's 11:16. Do you guys want a 5-minute or 2-minute stretch break and then go into the next exercise? Or Connie's going yes, Mariev's
Yes,
yes.
please.
Okay, so let's take, can we do take 3?
Yeah.
Take 3 minutes, 3 minutes to have a body break and come back and we'll get on with the next piece that will be another a 20-minute exercise or so. So, okay. I'm also looking at my my little design painting that I have here. So I could actually hit that with a hair dryer right now because it looks like it is drying up really nicely. But I also want to be really careful about using my hair dryer when I'm using Frisket, or not Frisket. Well, yeah, I'm just gonna never be able to say masking fluid. It's just not, it's just not possible for me. Okay, let me change my video here. There we go. So you can see it's still kind of sitting up. It's kind of bubbled. That's the reason why I have it taped down, is because when I'm going to dry it off here with the hair dryer, it's going to flatten out because the tape is holding it down. Now, when you're drying something with the masking fluid on it, you want to make sure that you're not using a high heat setting, because that will also end up like fixing that frisket into that spot. But I'm going to dry it now, and you know, there are definitely different, like I could have gone back in and done all of these 3 colors or 2 colors in here, 4 areas, but I'm going to dry it right now, and then I'm going to work on the next step for this one. All right, so my hair dryer. Now I'm just going to mute myself while the hair dryer's on.
I have to say, Janice, that your classes are way more fun than anything online that doesn't have the group. Thank you for taking the time to bring us together.
I second that.
There's something, I can look at lots of videos, but it doesn't have the fun of doing it together with a timer. It gets my juice better.
Really true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I was muted. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just didn't want to, blast you all with a hairdryer sound. And then I forgot to unmute myself. So I think we're ready to go. And let's look at what the next thing is we're going to do here, actually. I'll pull this one up. Okay. So the next adventure, should you be willing to accept, is something called a day map. And day maps are really kind of cool. There are also things that you can do after the fact. So if you say, for instance, you have a very, very busy day and you're not able to get out and go through and paint or do anything. One of the really neat ways of being able to recall a super busy day without having any time to stop and sketch while you're on the go is to work on a day map. And this is a little bit about memory recall as well. So it allows you to kind of create something that has a path to it. So in other words, it starts up here, and then we use the little dotted line and arrows to go through the day. And I'll explain my day here to you in 1 second. And also the opportunity to kind of put down these little memory moments, the memory shots, the moments that we experienced during the day, and sort of recall those and end up having it be quite a good way to recall something that happened. And so I think when I kind of give you the materials list, I mentioned like bringing along some travel photos or so, especially, if you experienced your journey or your trip a little while ago. This is a great way to kind of go back and jar your memory as far as the things that you did on that day. I don't know why I'm talking about memory so much, but I think there's a really valuable application for pocket watercolor journaling when it comes to, our lives are so busy, and then having a chance to, sit down and record our lives at a later date, that this is a really great way of doing it. So a day map, well, for instance, I started here. This is our floating camp. It was actually a barge in the middle of Guayhanas National Park. And we would start the day there, and then got onto the Adelita, loaded all of our gear on there. And then we took off and went south into Bag Harbor and Marco Island area. But on the way, we saw this white seal on the rocks, which I thought was like, wow, that is so cool. And so I remember drawing like a picture of the white seal that night. And then as we went further south, there was the eagles were fishing. And it was just, I can't even tell you how many bald eagles there were. There were so many of them. So it was great to see that. And then we went to Marco Island. Now this is I parked myself down in Marco Island. There's a much longer story, which I'm not going to tell you here because we'll be here all day, about this particular spot where I was able to sit and paint for a couple of hours, but had quite significant memories for me in this particular area. So there's just like a little miniature painting of that area on Marco Island where an old summer camp used to be for the Haida. From Marco Island, we journeyed along and we went to Bag Harbor. And that's where we learned about the giant cedars and the relationship of the salmon and the bear. So there was a study done. There was some DNA was taken from these giant cedars, which are much larger in this particular area than they are in other areas on the island. And the reason for that is there's a freshwater stream that feeds down into the sea. and the bears would come in there, and they would fish the salmon out of the stream and toss them up onto the banks of the river and eat them, and whatever was left over fertilized the giant cedars, and so they grew larger than anything else. And I think the study was at Simon Fraser University, but when they took DNA from the giant cedars, they found salmon DNA in the cedars themselves, which to me is just the most amazing thing about interconnectedness with our world. And so I never want to forget that moment, learning about that, seeing that for myself, seeing the salmon bones cast up on the side of the shore, and how much larger these trees were. And then we continued on painting in the Moresby area, and then we had lunch. So I had like a busy day so far, right? And then we had nice smoked salmon shore lunch. We continued down further south to go to Skungwai, and I saw my first ever humpback whale, which was incredible. It was like a bus, right, just rising out of the sea. And there was like a mom and a baby, and it was pretty great. And then we went to Seal Island, which is like a pile of rocks on the way down to Skungwai. And there are there are literally thousands of seals on that island. It was quite an impactful, noisy experience, smelly. And then we went down, got into Skungwai, and spent the afternoon with the totems. And that was just like, I could have done just a day map only on that particular experience at Skungwai. And then we went back home to our floating camp for the night. So that's what a day map can do. You can do, quite a bit of storytelling with it. There's an order to it. When I work on day maps, I'll start in the top left corner and I'll work my way across a double page spread, weaving in all of those little items, these little moments. And again, what I'll do is I will go and I will work up the ink drawings with the pen first, and then go in and sort of color them in, like painting them in. And that's one way that you end up with a day map. And I have another day map that I'll show you on the the classroom area, which is just an everyday, ordinary day that Grace and I spent together. And it's really funny when you start to break down a day, how many things you do in a day. It's just incredible to be able to go through and count them all out. But, if you have one journaling practice that is pretty cool, like I've had students that have just done day maps in one of their watercolor journals. So that is their way of spending, 20 minutes every day painting and just describing, the day that was yesterday. And they'll go through and do that. And then you have a complete life memory of your life. Or you can, do that practice for 30 days or 60 days or, however long you can stand to do it. But it is a really great way to kind of encapsulate your day and remember it and be able to go back. And when I look at this one, I go like, well, that was really something else. That was really a great day for me. I love Haida Gwaii, and there you go. That's it. Any questions on how to do a day map? So probably the biggest thing is like figuring out which day you're going to do right now. So I'm going to give you 20 minutes again to do this one as well. It's 2 pages, which means you have to work twice as fast. And yeah. So I'll get you to start going on that one, and we'll get the day map going, and then we'll have a few examples of what everybody's doing, and go from there. Are there any questions as you're going into it? I will remember to put my 20-minute timer on here. Okay. Okay, it took me that long to find my clock and start the timer. So you have 20 minutes starting now. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my my little design here and try and finish that off while you guys are working. I'm going to fill in these other areas here. I guess I could just demonstrate sort of how to use watercolor pencils as well. They tend to leave a bit more of a texture on the paper. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm just laying in some color. These are Pentel watercolor pencils that I'm using. So I'm just laying in a little bit of cross hatching. I'm careful not to scratch off the misket while I'm working. Watercolor pencils are also really neat to carry with you. If you want to capture some color but not have to use your water while you're out on site, it's one way of doing it and going back at a later time to continue to work on that. I'm just going to grab another smaller brush here. This is a Taklon, which is a synthetic fiber. And it's just like, I think it's a number 3 brush. Just using different brushes here. So now I've got some fresh water on there and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to tickle that watercolor pencil with some water. And there we go. That's all there is to it. It's just kind of a water soluble type of pigment in a pencil form. Should probably be getting some darker colors in here so that we can see the white when we pull it off. All right, so there's that. And then I'm just going to go with a, not thinking at all here about colors. Maybe I'll just go with a yellow. So this is just a bright yellowy green. Put that color in there. I don't like this brush as much. It doesn't hold, like it holds the paint differently. All right, I'm gonna actually darken up these darker green areas that I have here. I'm just gonna use Viridian and a blue mixed together. So again, using layers in watercolor, also a really good thing to do. So I can just go over that green color. It's still gonna shine through a little bit, but it's just giving me a different color. I'm going darker with it. It's got a little more blue. color in it. I might even, just to kind of tie this together, I'm just going to put this, I know is still wet. I'm just going to put some more of this same color down in here. Again, you just want to experiment and try new things and see how things go. This is a little dry, so it's not blending in as much as I would like it to, but I can change that by going in with the water, which is what I'm going to do now. Swishing and cleaning off my brush. And then I'm going to go in with water in here, and I'm just going to tickle that with some water, and that's going to give me a nicer, softer edge there. So you can also use your masking fluid for things like lettering, right? You could, if I'm, maybe I'll probably send this to my mom because she likes getting things in the mail. So I'll probably just send that to my mom. But um, it's kind of fun to also do lettering on there as well. And you can use the masking fluid to preserve the white area. It's going to make that darker. So lots of experimenting and just seeing how your colors move, how much water it takes to move them around, and getting at those, layers of color is really key in watercolor. It's kind of a little bit like you're working backwards. You're starting, you have to remember that the white of the page is basically, you have to preserve that. So if you're going to get darker with anything, oh, look at that, it's bleeding in together from the other side, which is fine. If you're going to get darker, like it's better to go from light to dark rather than you just can't kind of go from dark to light with watercolor. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my sound for a minute while I use my hairdryer because I don't want to like irritate everyone. I'll be right back. So when I was taking some watercolor workshops, it was a game changer for me to find out that I could actually use my hair dryer to dry things. You just have to be really judicious about it when you decide to use it and how you use it, because it can move the paint around if there's too much water on the paper, and it can also if you're using too high of a heat setting on the masking fluid, it will not come off the way that you want it to. So it's a very tactile process as well. Like here I'm you know, I touch it all the way through as it's drying to sort of see where that moisture level is in the paint. And I know that this is pretty dry now. So what I'm going to do is actually take off the masking fluid. And in order to do that, I need my rubber cement. Pick it up. So this is my rubber cement pickup. This one's brand new, it's still in the package. They are super cheap. They're not expensive at all. And you will have one of these for life. Okay, so I'm going to start at the top left-hand corner here, and I'm just going to start to work away at that. Oh, this is pretty. Oh, it doesn't want to come off. So I'm just scrubbing it a bit. There's, wow. This does not want to come off at all. Maybe that's the permanent part of masking medium. Oh my gosh. Look at me. Permanent masking medium. No wonder this is quite different from what I normally use. Okay, so it is now that because I picked it up and went, did they rename this? Why is it? Oh my God, joke's on me. A water repellent liquid wax, non-removable. How could I have missed that? Permanent. Okay, don't buy this, guys. This is not what you want. I'm not even going to be able to show you how this works, but I will get some of the proper stuff because mine had dried up. Yeah, don't buy this stuff. It's just not. Yes, Kathy, that's the right stuff. So look at that. It's permanent. I have no idea what you would use this for because it says watercolor on it. Okay, I'm gonna have to ask Winsor and Newton what the heck that stuff is. So imagine, if you will.
Would that do a glaze on the top if you did it on your whole painting at the? No. Okay.
No, it's just going to be there, be permanent, and God only knows what it's doing. So like, because you should actually be able to use your finger to take off the usual stuff. Oh my gosh. Okay, well there you go. There's like being comfortable with the fact that you learn something new every day. All right, well, I can show you how to peel off tape from a piece of watercoloring.
Because none of us know that.
Yeah, so I'm not going to have all these beautiful crisp white lines. It's just going to look like permanent masking medium on top of my paper. Liquid wax, non-removable. All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to find out from Winsor and Newton what that's all about. So when you peel off the tape from a piece of watercolor that you've put down and stretched out, there is definitely a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. So you want to peel slowly up and away on the sides from the piece itself. Well, look at that. I'm successful at doing something today. I knew it. The day just started with a bang. Okay. And then I have this really nice crisp edge here. I love to see those edges on my pieces when I'm working on them. And then here, I guess I'll go with this piece next. And then I'm just pulling down and away here. Just because you just want to make sure that you're pulling away from the paper itself. The reason for that is that if it is just a little bit wet still, it can pull and tear your paper into the painting area, and you don't want that. So if the paper is going to tear, you want it to tear away from the painting. This is funny. Okay. There we go. Okay. That's a how-to and what not to buy. Um, okay, it's funny because I was like, doesn't smell like it normally does. They must have really changed their formulation quite a bit. So in the end here, I have this little part up here that's got a little bit of paint that's sort of seeped under in that uh, area, just got under the tape. And you can actually do a couple of different things. You can scrape away at it with a sharp knife. I love being an artist. I get to play with knives. So you can do that, or you can grab a little small piece of, this is such a small area. It's not going to matter. And the paper is very thick. But there, I can just scrape that away. You could also use a small piece of sandpaper. So it's very thick, very decent paper. Takes a lot of abuses, including using permanent masking medium. Yeah, that's weird stuff. I have no idea what anybody would use that for, but I'm gonna find out and let you guys know, because that's pretty cool. All right, and so I had intended to use this as a postcard. So at any time you can send yourself a postcard, or send someone that you love a postcard, or somebody that you don't love a postcard. But it'll go through the mail really nicely. All you need to do on the back, just to sort of comply with um, postal regulations, is sort of split it down the center. And I just usually do that with a line. And you can go and you can paint something on the back side of this as well. And then you just, you're gonna just have a few lines here for the address. And then you can write whatever you want on this side. And then put your postage stamp up here. And off you go. And just throw that in the mail. And it's kind of fun to actually come home from a trip and get mail from yourself that you made with the wrong materials. So have fun with that, because there's all kinds of things that you can do just with this, a quick little practice like this. That's funny. I'm going to keep that because that's funny. I thought I was so good. I thought, oh, this is so great. I can go to Westlock. I don't have to go all the way into Edmonton and get supplies. I can get stuff right here in Westlock, and that's all they had on the shelf. So I just grabbed it. And I was like, yes, that's a win. It's a win for something. I don't know what for, but all right. I'll just show you, this is another pseudo suitcase page that I did. And this was to help us remember everything that we needed when we were playing polo. So that, because my daughter is just super forgetful. And so I did a little illustration for her, took a picture of it and sent it to her, so that she would always remember she needed everything that she needed in order to get on the field and play on time. So we started out with a backpack because often we would throw a bunch of stuff in the backpack, including the polos. But just all of the little things that she needed to remember, and not necessarily in the order, but she needed her puller ball, she needed her boots, her helmet, her mallet, she needed her pony, she needed her polos, the bridle, beer for mom, um, the saddle pad, the proper halter that goes over top of the bridle, her saddle, her whites, her crop, her jersey, and the draw reins. So that's another way of just kind of, making a list, a visual list of things that you would need for getting out on the field. All right, how's everybody doing with their day map?
Almost done.
Almost done? Done, almost done, semi-done? So other things that I've done in my journal, I'm just going to show you while you guys are finishing up here, is I've actually done garden planning in my journal, kind of just plotting things out from an aerial view, so that I can kind of look at everything that's there and go, longer, like I can know everything that's dead in that garden now just by looking at it. But just situating things and actually having a map and a little visual around what the garden is, the size of the garden, and my hopes and dreams for that garden. Oh yeah, and then I just did this like little, what I anticipate it would look like when it grew up. That sort of worked, except there's a lot more dandelions in there than I'd hoped for. So Kevin spent 3 hours yesterday pulling dandelions. I'll just remind him that that's how it's supposed to look. Okay, who's ready to share? Oh, Jan, that was a big sigh. Does that mean you're ready to share?
No, I haven't put any color on it, but I'm working on it.
Oh, so you're okay. Well, just hang on a second. I'll spotlight you and you can share that with us. And just move it over to your left a bit more.
There we go.
Okay.
So we were recently in Morocco.
Wow.
Here we go. And this is our first day there in Marrakesh. We were there during Ramadan.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we came across a festival the very, very first morning. And this is where the girls had done their henna. And so there were the performers there as well. And on the way to the market, we encountered a lady who was completely dressed in her yes, completely covered. And of course, she had her little boy with her, and he was dressed Western. And then we came across a mosque, and then we were in the market in the souk where they were selling bunnies and chickens. And here is our lunch, which was fantastic. Food in Morocco is exceptional.
Yeah,
and
I've heard that. Yeah.
And then this is in the souk. That's as far as I've gotten.
That's neat. Okay.
Oh, I need
I
to
bet
put some...
so.
Go
So
ahead.
this was just one day, right? Like the one day that you were
Yes.
working on? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's great. Okay.
Thank you.
But you can see how, like, it is something at the end of the day when you have a super, super busy day and you don't have time to stop, or you don't have, like, it's just not possible for you to paint when you're doing what it is that you're doing that day. Then it becomes a great way to kind of record by memory. And the fact that you don't have to, these do not have to be absolutely, Leonardo da Vinci type drawings. They just, the essence, right? I cannot emphasize enough over and over how much that emphasis on just the essence of something is important. And it'll just allow you to create quite a few more things and be a little less frustrated with working when you're doing things. So I see, Mary Eve.
Just one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to mention that like in the souk, there was so much going on. It was so hard to remember what to put down even, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And the
It's,
crowds and all that is, yeah. But
yeah,
I guess, you know, just having part of it even helps you remember that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Gary's asking me what are polos, and those are the wraps that go around the horse's legs so that if they get hit by a ball, it doesn't hurt them. Yeah. Okay. Who I have who wants
Becky,
to go
Becky would
next?
go.
I have some people that have already raised their hands. Mary Eve and Gary and
I
somebody
will,
else, which I
I
can't
will
see.
go very quickly. It's a 2-page, so I did a full 2-page, but I'll go down. So in December, I spent 3 weeks in Borneo, in the Sabah part of Borneo. So here it is. We arrived at the beautiful jungle lodge on the dock, and the light was beautiful with the trees. And then we went on a night boat ride to the sunset, and then we're starting to see snakes that appear on the
Oh,
boardwalk, in the trees as we're boating. There's snakes around. But then we ended up seeing a beautiful, my orangutan is still needs to be drowned better, but the orangutan was hiding with us in the Chinese protector of the cave, which is where I've seen the most cockroach ever, because it's a bird nest case. And we were walking on millions and millions of cockroaches in that beautiful cave that the orangutan was protecting. And when we went out of the cave, then there was all those millions, was about 3 millions of bats flying, and eagle will come and eat them. And we were looking at eagles feeding on this wave of oceans of bats. And then you look on this, the Malaysian flag has the moon and the Venus. And every night when we were at sunset, the Venus was talking to the moon. And it was so
oh,
beautiful in the sky. It was exactly as the flag. And then look, and there was a proboscis monkey, the monkeys with the big, instead of being in the tree, started to swim beside our boat. And he came across and swim for a long distance. So it's the cave, the monkeys, the snake, the boat, and the Borneo, where it was beautiful for my healing in December.
was that that was the first day that you arrived there?
I kind of squished 2 days in one, like a night
2 days in one. Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
it's kind of started at night by the time we arrive, and then the next
yeah,
day.
yeah. Don't forget to put your little dotted line around like the order of them.
Yeah, I did.
Maybe
They're
I
very
can't,
faint.
yeah,
Yeah,
maybe I can't, I just can't see it in
yeah,
the,
they're very
yeah,
faint. That's a
yeah,
good point.
yeah, good.
But I did a 24 hours, but from night to night,
Yes, yes, got
because
it.
that's how I worked over there. It was never really full day.
You have amazing travel experiences, Mary Eve. I would like to see all of your journal when you're finished.
But that's why I want to know how to journal. I never did. Need no
Yeah,
writing or drawing, because so now I'm like really thankful to you, actually.
good, good. Thank you. Gary and then Marilyn.
This is
Sorry, Becky. Sorry, I'm gonna go with. Wait a second. I have
is that too small, too large?
Gary. Oh yeah, just hang on. I'm gonna highlight you. Hang on. My computer's going. There we go. Spotlight. There we go. Okay. Tell
This
us
is
about
across
your.
2 days. I'll have
Yeah.
to do it one day at a time.
Yeah.
This is Mother's Day, where we went down to meet our kids for lunch, took the car to the subway station because parking downtown is difficult.
Crazy. Yeah.
We went to the first restaurant, the kids were late. So we went to a park and to the Railway Museum downtown. Very interesting place. Then we went to eat, very basic drawings. Then we went
That's
for
good.
chocolate tasting in an
Oh.
old train car.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it actually was quite interesting.
Yeah. And then you got in the car.
And then we went home.
Excellent. There's your day right there. Perfect.
And it is the same car, it just came out differently.
Right. No, it's good. It's going one way and then it goes the other way. And that's kind of a really,
Yes.
it's a very neat and simple way to kind of indicate movement, right? Like to kind of use those dots all the way around and then kind of end up, the car went one way and then it goes the other way. That's a simple, great way to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now Kathy had her hand raised, and I think Becky, did you want to share? Okay, I need you to, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Mine's pretty boring because it's just today and it's kind of what I'm going to do today, and it's very, very tedious.
Okay, so that's a really interesting way to think about the day journal, right? It's about thinking about what's your plan for the day. That's a whole different way than actually going through and having the memory of the day, is that you're going through the plan for what the day is. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to see it? I can show you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
first,
just give me a quick
plan.
rundown. Yeah.
The plants, I was working in the garden before class. Class is on. Garbage day, had to make sure I had the garbage out. Eat lunch, that's a lovely fork. And I have no idea what I'm eating, but it looks healthy. Then I'm going to a Fire Smart workshop, and I'm a member of the emergency support services, so I'll go as a representative. And then where do I go next? And then I'm going to come home and do some physiotherapy and maybe some more gardening, and have supper. And then I might actually have to do some housekeeping, which is not work. You see how happy I look. And then go pick my asparagus because there should be quite a bit. And then I'll hopefully get some time to do some art.
Back to do some art. Perfect.
And it's very well done. I'm so impressed. I have no inner critic going on here.
That's awesome. That's what we want. We want fired, and fired.
There you go.
Okay, Kathy.
I'll do a quick one too.
Okay.
Oh, I'll see if you can see that. It's just, there.
Yeah.
Back up.
Yeah.
Right there?
Yeah, that's good. Oh, Mother's Day map. Yeah.
Okay. So every morning I walk on the Kettle Valley Railway. There's a willow tree about a kilometer away. The kids have put a members only sign underneath it, which is quite cute for their summer hideaway. Then this is Mother's Day. So I walked, I gardened, and we have to have a fence around our garden to keep the deer out. So we've got a fenced garden. I made a rhubarb pound cake, which was really lovely for my own Mother's Day present. Dinner with friends, and I blacked out their faces to keep them anonymous. And finally, FaceTime with family. That's it.
That's great. That's fantastic. I should do my Mother's Day and send it to my kids. I wasn't very happy with them. That's perfect. Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that wants to share? And then we'll go on to the next one. I see Kayla's hand up. I see Connie's hand up. Connie, we haven't heard from you, I don't think, for a while, so we'll go with Connie.
Hi there. My page is on, like both of them are combined here. Can you see that?
No, it's looking a little pixelated for me. Does anybody else see it? I can't. No. It's pretty blurry. I don't know why. Maybe it's either your internet or my internet, but that's a lot. There is a lot going on there in the one.
Maybe we'll go to someone else then.
And if you could take a photograph and post it up in an article on our group website, then we could do that too.
Sure. Okay.
I'm seeing you as very blurry. So everybody else is seeing that the same? Yeah.
It's probably our internet right now.
Probably the internet. Okay. I think what I want to do is I want to keep moving on because I think you've all got a good idea, a good grasp of what goes on with the day maps themselves. And I'm just looking at the time here. It's 12:06. We have I'd like to respect everyone's time. It's kind of hard because I try to, I'm as usual packing a lot in here. But I want us to do one more exercise together, and it's a little more about a more detailed type of piece. And yesterday, sort of, we did the idea of the moment, right? So this time we're going to do a more detailed moment. If I can find my journal here. So we're going to do a double page spread, and that's something to think about as you're going through your journal, like just varying it and changing it up a little bit, so you don't have like moment, 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 and then something else. So me giving you a different ideas for your pages here is sort of the idea that you can vary up your journal a little bit with some different designs. So this particular journal that I have is filled with well, I started it off, I didn't really know what I wanted, but I did, like, I was driving in the car and I just did this this one beautiful cloud that I saw in the distant landscape. And that's not what we're going to do, but I'm just showing because it was the first page. So then I had an idea. This is what I wanted to do with this particular journal is have one page on the left-hand side that was a bit of a more detailed inspirational drawing for me. And then on this side, I want to have a poem. I want to have something to kind of go with that, so that I can just look back and go, oh yeah, I remember that day. It was kind of nice. So in this exercise, we're going to work on one side, we're going to do like one full page of a moment. And if you've just got larger paper, that's fine. Just imagine that you have a sketchbook and do like what we call a double page spread. And then on the other side, I want you to do, either you can do a little bit of writing, or you can pick a poem that you might particularly like, or limericks. Those could also be fun. But the idea for me with this journal is that would become sort of the whole journal, is that it's just the illustrations and something on this page that's the writing that accompanies the piece. For those of you that are writers, I think this will be a kind of a fun thing for you to do, to be able to do a little drawing here and a little bit of a blurb here. So, like I think I'm kind of heading in the direction of making this like a bit more of a botanical themed kind of a thing, but I've gone ahead and I've actually prepared pages on the right hand side with what I'm calling floats. This is like a true float, and I'm going to demonstrate that while you guys are working. So I will have something that I will write on there, and so on. And then, so I've gone ahead and I've actually prepared all of these little float areas ahead of time. And then I use them as demos and workshops. And then I know that I will eventually have something that will go on here. So if I come across a poem, I know I'm going to put the poem in there, and then I'm going to do a little illustration or something to go with it. But it's also a really great way if you want to spend a bit more time focused on sort of a single idea, or if you're traveling, it could be one thing that really stood out for you on your trip, and then either some sort of form of writing that goes along with that as well. And it's a really nice way to kind of beef up your journal a little bit and give a little more substance rather than just those quick moments. So I want you to spend, I guess, 20 minutes again. We'll go with the 20-minute mark here on just doing like a one-page moment on one side and an area on the right side where you can write something. And you don't, you can go ahead and do an illustration And then like in 20 minutes, we're not going to have time for it to dry and for you to write your piece on that. But it is something that it's something that you can spend a little bit more time on and have a more finished piece in your pocket watercolor journey on your travels. Okay, so any questions about that? And I think you can go, you know, if you've got your travel photos from past travels, go through those, pick something out that just sort of calls to you a little bit, spend a little, maybe, you know, 10 minutes of time on that painting, and then maybe 10 minutes just writing about that on this page. And the cool thing about, you know, using those pens is that, you know, it's a chicken egg situation. One can come first and the sketch can come second. So if you want to write down in with your pen your whatever it is that you're going to write there about the moment that you're placing on the left hand page, then later, like tonight, your homework would be to go back and create some kind of a little background painting or an augmenting form of illustration or little watercolor moments or just colors. Just colors is also really quite acceptable. You know, it's all about sort of what we feel and how we see the world. Okay. Any questions around the assignment? And then I'm going to give you a whole bunch more ways to use your journal. We're going to have a Q&A at the end here, and then I will have lots of videos posted up for some how-tos in the next week coming up. So working for everybody? Okay, I'm going to start the timer. And where are we here? Yeah, there we go.
I'm so sorry, Janice. Can you just quickly
That's
tell
okay.
me what we're exactly doing there? I was briefly distracted. Thanks.
That's okay. So we're doing a double page spread. It's basically a moment, like a more detailed moment than some of the ones that we've been doing, and a text accompaniment to it. So if you have, for instance, something, you know, like a pivotal moment, even in your life, or something that was really important in the travel journey that you want to spend a little more time on, rather than just the day map or the quick journaling or whatever, this is the opportunity to do that, to kind of create something just slightly more advanced than your quick painting, and then an accompaniment with the writing. So you know how we did the stream of consciousness writing? This is a little more thought to something that you might want to say in watercolor and in text for that particular pivotal moment or memory or meal. It could be a plate full of charcuterie. Like you can go deeper with the charcuterie drawing here, or anything like that. Does that help, Lisa? Okay. All right. And I'm just going to be here if you guys have any questions, pipe up. I'm just going to review my notes and make sure that I've got everything in line to give you guys for some further ideas. So I wanted to show you some other things that you can do with your journal as well. These are like library card pockets that kind of go into books. I remember when, well, maybe not all of us will remember, but when the Dewey Decimal System, and you would have a library card in the back of the book, and they'd stamp it, and you can get lots of these available on Amazon or at a book binder, or sometimes art supply stores have them. But they're really cool to actually paste inside your journal. So if you want to keep souvenirs from your trip, and by souvenirs, I mean the idea around these is that you can, I don't have one in this journal, but you can paste them onto the page just using a glue stick. And you can tuck little things in there, like you can tuck little notes to yourself, or you can tuck in things like, you know, you might be somewhere really different and had, like, I can remember when I was in Vienna, and Jacob was quite small, and we tried for the first time Mozart Kugeln, I think it's called. And they were like little small round candy wrappers, and they were very different. And so I wish I had kept, you know, if I had been doing this at that time, I would have kept one of those wrappers and probably tucked it into the journal and just went, wow, okay, that I remember, you know, again, we're hearkening back to the idea of the sensory experience of your travel. Things like, you know, a beer label off of a beer in Germany or something like that, or chocolate bar labels, anything that you can fit into one of these library card uh, things is pretty kind of cool to actually go, oh, wait a second, I can take that out and have a look at what was in there. So it's a really great little tool to kind of add to your journey with your journal, because it will give you that actual tactile remembrance of whatever it was. So the other thing that I think is really cool that you can use if you're in different countries is to think about the coins that you get. And if you were to take a coin rubbing, I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but if you just like take a crayon or a pencil or anything, and you just do a rubbing over top, like with a piece of paper, and slip that in, it's a really interesting way to kind of experience and re-experience the culture of the place that you're in, is to have some kind of a memento of the currency itself. I'm also going to do a demo for you guys with salt. Okay, so that you can learn what salt can do, because it is a pretty fantastic, uncontrollable type of thing that you can do with watercolor in your journal. And it's a pretty fabulous thing. It's just like a little bit of, you know, those tricks and tips. I'm going to see if I can actually paste this one down right now, and I'll try and do something with it. Thank goodness I didn't have to go out and buy new salt, like with my watercolor masking stuff. Salt works the same around the world. And another thing that you can do is, like, if you're at McDonald's or a takeout order place or whatever, grab those little packs of salt and put them in your kit. And then you don't have to carry a whole shaker of salt. Clearly, that's one thing that's kind of a neat thing to do. Where did I put
I've been putting salt in little pill bottles, like the tiny one, to be able to be waterproof.
Yeah, yeah. And it used to be like, I probably nobody has any of these things kicking around, but you know, film canisters, you used to get canisters that your film was in when you took it to get it developed. Those things are really handy as well for carrying small amounts of things like salt or anything else you want to pop in there. Even a couple of extra half pans can go in there, and pill bottles even, that's another way of carrying things really light and efficiently. Kathy wishes she'd done a day map yesterday to help me find where I put my favorite watercolor brush. Well, thanks, Irene. Sorry that you have to go off to an appointment, but there will, I think she might have already gone, but I will give you lots more tips on sort of the beginning things for watercolor artists as you're working in your journals, so that, I'll show you also how to do a pull with a brush, a color pull. Well, I had the tape and now it has gone the way of strange things that disappear, like socks. Oh, here it is. Okay. So the thing about salt is that it creates this really nice sparkle. And since my masking technique didn't work, well, my technique is good, but the fluid was the wrong stuff. But you can definitely use salt to create that kind of a sparkle that like snow. It can also, if you hit it right, it can also be a really cool way to experience. There we go. I'm just going to do a little area of.
Janice, does it matter if it's coarse or fine salt?
Coarse salt will, yes, it will. Clearly, like if you're using a coarse salt, it's going to be bigger. So you have to think through sort of your high school chemistry or physics or whatever, no, chemistry, that salt, will suck up the water, right? And what happens if you're using bigger grains of salt is that your area that you throw the salt on will be those sparkle spots will be different. But it also depends on how much water you have on the page. If you have too much water or not enough water, you will not get the same result. So the way to work with that, Marilyn, is to experiment and figure out what that coarse salt does. I have a pack of kosher salt, which is like very large salt, right? That I use, and it's I've never tried it. I've kind of opted for just regular salt.
Oh, okay, I just thought that maybe there was one that was used more often. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think just regular table salt is pretty decent. But we could try that out. I would imagine it would give you bigger sparkles. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm wetting my page. I'm gonna try and get some really dark coloring in here. I'm just using a straight ultramarine blue.
Have you got any rain up there?
Yeah, we had rain yesterday.
Oh, good.
So now we have like acres of lawn to cut.
And what's happened with the fires?
There are the fires that were immediately north of us have stopped. They have complete control over those. I'm not sure about the boil fires or the Redwater fires. I haven't had any strange updates. I haven't been on Facebook. I've been just working on the farm and prepping and working on the workshop here. So I did hear some helicopters go over this morning before we started. So I don't know if that means there's another fire up there or not, but I haven't had an alert or anything. So that's where I know things are at. I know everybody in the area has had some rain, but you know, the fear is always. But I think that was like the perfect storm. Okay, so I've got a fair amount of paint on there and some wet, I've got fairly wet paper right now. So I'm just gonna, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take in my salt shaker and I'm just gonna speckle that. I'm just gonna put some salt on it and I will wait and see what happens. Now, I think I'm gonna run to the kitchen and I'm gonna get my other salt and try that larger salt and see what happens in a couple of areas. Okay, so this is what I have. It's coarse salt. And I'm gonna throw it on and whoops, oh that's way too much salt. But there you can see how it looks. It's kind of like the salt that you would use on pretzels. I'm gonna just put it in the center area here. See what happens. There we go. The experiment continues.
Janice, doesn't the salt need to dry for about a day or so?
There's two approaches that you can use. You can let the, it's going to depend on how much water you have on your paper and how much water there is in the paint. I can see that's starting to move and do its thing already. The other thing you can do is you can actually use the hair dryer to speed up the process. You will not get the same result that you do if you let it dry. I wouldn't say it would take a day to dry. I wouldn't think it would take that long. Sometimes I can remember when I was working in watercolor and some of the bigger paintings, like I would want to wait for this all to go and do its thing, but I also got really used to picking the right moment when it's not too wet, not too dry, and hitting it with the hair dryer. So this one's pretty wet, so we're probably going to have to but I don't know if you can see it or not in there with some of these larger pieces of salt it's already starting to pull up the color from what I've got down there. On the smaller area, not so much. Yeah, it's kind of working, but there's a lot of water on that piece. Oh, I can see it. Yeah, it's starting to move. So I'll be able to hit that with a hair dryer and get that nice sparkly feel to what's going on there. And like you don't want to use salt in every, all overuse it or whatever, but it is kind of nice to use it, I would say judiciously when you're working and play around with it. And you'll you'll get used to using it as a technique and trying some different things with it. Can you see it? Can you guys see that kind of starting to kind of vein itself and the paint's kind of moving itself around? I don't want to pull you up from your concentrated work. Oh. So yes, Anne, I will try to send out that sheet. I just, it's just a JPEG, so I don't know why that's not going out. Why you can't see it? Because I can see it. So that's weird. Okay, is anybody near to being able to show and tell?
I am Amanda.
Amanda? Okay, great. Show me your stuff.
And I could go to at some point.
Dominique? Okay, great. Oops, let me spotlight you here, Amanda. Okay. Beautiful. All right, tell me what you've written. You can just read it to us if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. It's actually not something that I wrote, but it's something that I was thinking of when I made the sculpture. And it's an essay by Italo Calvino as lightness. Whenever humanity seems condemned to heaviness, I think I should fly like Perseus into a different space. I don't mean escaping into dreams or into the irrational. I mean that I have to change my approach. Look at the world from a different perspective, with a different logic, and with fresh methods of cognition and verification. The images of lightness that I seek should not fade away like dreams, dissolved by the realities of present and future.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Thank you.
So I was just trying to escape from kind of the heaviness of, the world. And
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you for that. Dominique?
So this is.
Oh yeah, you've got the background blurry thing going on, so I can't.
I thought I had removed it. Okay, well.
Oh, there, right there. Oh, sort of. Okay, I can't. No, can't really see it.
And it's reversed.
Rocks. I see rocks.
Yes, it's
There's
rocks.
Rocks on your page. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. All right. So what is the writing part going to be for you then?
Just because some of them remind me, they are quite interesting. This one has it looks like it has a white string wrapped around, looks like a cross. This one looks like an eye. This one is like a pyramid. This is like a hunk of bread. So they all have, they remind me of other things and
of different
that's
things.
all.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's good. That's perfect. Who else would like to share? Anne. Just I'm like whoever I see right away. I'm just kind of there. We go. Okay, you need to unmute yourself. Okay. Yep, I can see that.
Okay, so this is just one of my favorite quotes from John O'Donohue. I would love to live like a river flows, carried by the surprise of its own unfolding.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Good.
It's a beautiful poem.
Yeah, beautiful. Anybody else? Louise?
Okay. Let me see this. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Look at you go.
Okay. And it's
Yeah.
no matter the weather, the whole world feels better when shared with good friends. Fog, rain, sleet, snow, sun, heat, cold, wet, doesn't matter. Friends make it better.
Awesome. Okay. Anybody else want to share what they've got? Marilyn? Okay. Oh, now you've muted you. No, you're muted again. You unmuted and muted. There. There we go.
Oh, the poem isn't mine, but it's one I just did a quick search for. And I just took parts of it because some of it I didn't love. But so it's Muskox. His impressive side is an astounding wall of fur, a kind of dry waterfall formed of long strands of hair, festooned with jaunty tufts of wool. His prehistoric skull barely clears the dense fur around it, a pair of drooping horns. His happiness comes from enduring his eyes roam over the rich landscape. He lumbers up the crest like a minibus made of hair, potentially looking for the next buffet of grasses.
Very nice.
Okay. Yeah.
That's so cool. Anybody else wants to have something that they'd like to share with everyone? Kayla?
Yeah, I have this massive bouquet of purple tulips on my table. So
Oh, I saw those in a previous drawing.
Yeah.
They were the painting. They were excellent. Yes.
So here's my very quick rendition of it. And I found this little poem that said, in the garden, tulips grow straight and golden in a row. Each one holds its empty cup, drinking rain and sunshine up.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, anybody else want to reveal their secret painting and thoughts?
I've done it before. I'll do it very
Okay, hang on.
A golden chrysanthemum.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I've learned a Pangu, a Qigong lately to help me in all the crazy. And the kind of way to go is to take kindness and benevolence as basis and to take frankness and friendliness to heart while embracing the universe and holding the golden chrysanthemums, which is your own potential.
Lovely.
So I put the whole Qigong into these pages. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. And I think that's sort of what's beautiful about like just being able to kind of do that quick, but not so quick, like 20 minutes, right? You've got something that's extremely memorable, all of you. And that makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. Okay. Anybody else that wants to share their more detailed moment and writing before we just kind of go into let's check through and Janine?
Well, am I muted or am I good?
No, you're good. I got to just spotlight.
Well, Micheline will laugh at this, but I don't have my words down yet, but I was pretty pleased with myself because this is the first little landscape that I've ever done.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's a place that we stay every year. It's Cox Beach in Tofino. But I don't have my word yet, so maybe Michi can help me with that.
Oh, there we go. The wordsmiths in the group.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, and so like, well, no, you should actually do it for yourself because
I know I should. I know. I will,
like
and I will. I will. But you know what? This is still kind of weird and wet, so my pen wasn't working. So
yeah, absolutely. Those are sometimes the limitations that are happening in workshops when we're trying to move quickly and cover as much territory as we can. Anyone else that wants to kind of offer that up, or if you're still working on it, that's fine, because what I can do and what I will do here is just kind of go to my notes and just talk a little bit about what we've done, where we're going with these. I'm watching my salt kind of do its thing at the same time, but I want to check through on my list of things that we wanted to do or that I wanted to do to show you how to do this. So just to recap, to remember to fire your procrastinator and fire that perfectionist when it comes. If you can only do that in your life towards your pocket watercolor journaling practice, then that is a start, right? It's just like getting rid of our inner critic and getting down those simple, essential pieces of information. With watercolor, you have the opportunity to work in color and with the pens in black and white as well. So it gives you lots of opportunity to create meaningful. And I mean it, like I don't want to hear anybody saying, oh, these are really rudimentary or anything. Those are really excellent sketches and drawings that you're doing. And they are important because they capture essence. And that is one of the things I think more than anything with any artist aspires to, is capturing the essence of their subject matter. So you have those tools to be able to do that. There is no right or wrong, right, in your journal. It is your sketchbook. It's your journal. So just keep that top of mind. And, you know, there's all kinds of different elements that you can include in your journal other than just the examples of the different types of pages that we can do. You can also, you know, collage or scrapbook elements into your pocket watercolor journal as well. Those library pockets are amazing. Just use a glue stick, throw a couple into your book before you go anywhere, and then you've got got them all ready to go. It's just like, you know, thinking ahead and prepping and making sure that you have things ready to go. You know, you could keep a separate journal just for color notes and your swatching. I mean, when I don't know what to paint, or if I'm feeling like artist block, I will swatch in my journal, and I'll just like work on color and take out my pen, or sorry, my brush and my paints, and I'll just swatch, and I'll get to know my colors better and what they do, and, you know, how much water I need on my brush, and how much I want to use as far as, you know, even overlapping colors and kind of creating like a plaid page where I've got all colors going one way and then different colors going another way. So I know what happens when they go layer over layer. And make sure that you know, excuse me, make notations in your journal of the colors that you're using, so that if you do want to go back to them, you will know what it is that you've used. And to that note and point as well, make sure that you sign your journal at the front. Like, this is Kayla Rubin's journal, right? Like, if you ever get it lost, you want somebody to return it to you because there's lots of stuff in there. You can make postcards and send them to yourself. If you're waiting in a hotel room or on a tour bus or something, look out the window and make a sketch. Even if you can't get to the watercolor part of it, you can do that later. I'm a bad example of that. I showed you my journal from 2012 that I never got back to. But do as I say, not as I do. And just always put the date and time on your sketch as well, so you know when you did it. Another really interesting page that you can create when you're traveling, and this is something that's really neat, is when you look at road signs, right? So road signage in different countries is entirely different than what we experience in North America. So, you know, look at those road signs and, you know, be conscious of signs that you're seeing, and, you know, have a page where you're just maybe working on the signage in whatever country you're in. Think about your sketchbook like you're an explorer, okay? That you're encountering new things every day. And if you keep that, even if you just when you're working on your sketchbook, if you keep that idea of explorer at top of mind, those new experiences will just come funneling in. Um, food. Food is a great catalyst for art. So we saw when we did that most memorable meal, it might just be that most memorable chocolate and strawberry moment when you're out plein air painting with Kathy. So think about food and how that kind of relates to your travel journey or your daily life. These journals obviously clearly don't have to be just for traveling. Try to keep your sketches to like 3 minutes. Like, don't get like obsessed about the sketching part of it. It will flow so much better for you if you can just keep that in mind, that these are essential essence type sketches that go into those. And sometimes it's just notes. Sometimes you might just want to write about what you experienced, and that's okay, because again, this is your journal. Takeaway menus. If you go to a restaurant when you're out, you know, that's another really great way to kind of, you know, ask if they have, I'm just still focused on the food aspect of things here, but if you ask if they have a takeaway menu, then you can take that menu and just pop it into your journal. It's a really great way to remember what's going on. One thing that Kevin and I did actually when we were in Haida Gwaii, I asked the chefs from the thanks Jenny, um, the to come over and sign my book. And you know, sometimes chefs will be really busy and they can't. But you know, if you're comfortable and you want to, and there's somebody that you've met that's meaningful or that has given you a meaningful moment during the time that you are creating your journal, feel free to just invite them in, and they'll be super excited to be able to contribute. And it just makes it so much more special for you when you kind of go back and review your journals down the line. Another thing that's really great about these library card holders, or in the back of your journals, some journals have these little pouches at the back where you can just keep stuff in. If you are able to, or if you want to, you could write a secret note to yourself. Like, just like, the idea of like having a secret and keeping a secret is kind of neat. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a secret. It could just be like a little note that you tucked in and said, oh, I had a really wonderful time today with so-and-so. I loved this about the moment. And you just write that down on a piece of paper, shove it into your journal, and you've got that beautiful moment sort of preserved for yourself. Recipes. If you're so inclined and you want to keep a really great recipe that you use or that you've had when you're traveling, it's also another great way to add to your journal, just all the creative ways that you can think. It's like the sky is absolutely the limit on this. You know, the only limit I would say that you're going to have really is time, right? And carving out the time to take part in the practice and to do the practice. And you know, you're limited a little bit with your knowledge of color when you're just beginning your workshop on, or your knowledge on watercolors. So again, swatch and play and get to know your colors, and you can do it through your watercolor journal as well. Sorry, the simple watercolor wheels that are on it's the whole separate self-study piece that you can do. So simple watercolor theory. So if you create, you know, a few different color wheels with different primaries, you're going to have good knowledge of how your colors will work. We talked a lot about supplies. The other thing you can do is, like, you know, in the back part of your, like, you can actually do a color wheel into your journal so that you know what you're going to get out of any 3 colors that you're working with. When you work with a limited palette, you're going to see more unification of the images that you're using color on. And that is one of the beautiful things about not using a whole bunch of different colors, is that if you only have 3 or 4 or 10 colors that you really love using, use them. And you will find that your work will all tie together really, really well. I did want to mention that when it comes to the paint itself, you know, what is watercolor paint, right? We haven't really talked about that too much, but all paints are basically made out of 3 components: pigment, binder, and solvent. And with watercolor, it's the pigments are sort of universal. When I say universal, I mean, like, pigment is in acrylics, it's in oils, it's in egg tempera, it's in watercolor. The binder is sometimes what makes it different with paint. So the binder in most watercolors that you're working with is gum arabic. And the solvent part of watercolor is water, of course. So the thing that I think a lot of people think about when it comes to working, say, for instance, in oils versus watercolors, is that watercolors are, you know, they're not smelly, and they shouldn't smell. If your watercolors smell, something's wrong. They're they're um, they're they're equally as dangerous. I just want to say that. When it comes to sort of a health and safety aspect of things, the pigments that are in a cadmium red watercolor are the same pigments that are in a pure cadmium red acrylic color or an oil color. So just be conscious of that. You know, don't, one of the things that's really, you can get into a bad habit with when you're painting and you're really working on it, is dipping in your water. And then if there's too much water, and this is, I was a bad habit that I had, I would actually go like that to move the water off. Don't do that. It's really bad. And just, you know, be careful, you know, if you get paint on your hands or whatever, go wash it off right away. I just want you to know that, like, cadmiums and certain pigments definitely have a, you know, a carcinogenic effect. So be careful of that. Be careful of not dipping your paintbrush in your coffee as you're working, because we all get sort of hung up in work, and it does happen. Like, it happened to me yesterday morning. I was just like, oh, boom. And I'm like, no, wrong glass. So make sure that either that you keep your food and everything away from your work area, and that you're just conscious about that, you know, never the twain shall meet. There are some paints out there that are watercolor paint that use honey as a binder. So keep your eyes out for those. They're definitely around. Don't eat them. So just, you know, make sure that you know that toxicity is an issue. It's not, watercolor isn't, you know, just, it's not this, it's the same as
Janice, can I ask about those ones with honey? Do you know anything about them? And
I can't right off the top of my head tell you what companies do that, but I'm sure if you did a Google search, you would find it.
No, I just didn't know. I've seen them. I just don't know anything about them. Or
no, I've never worked with them either. Like I said, like, I invested in Winsor & Newton professional colors right from the get-go. And so I am definitely a Winsor & Newton girl. And I just, because I have a pretty big investment in paint here in the studio, I'm not gonna switch brands in the middle of, well, or near the end of my career. But if anybody has any experience with the honey paints, just pop it in and let people know.
And that note, I've switched brands, like I invested in beams, and like I
Yeah.
see the tube, it's not worth it to move in between the two. Like I'm kind of
Probably not, unless you want to, unless you have like a huge desire to make a set of dot cards to make it more, even more portable. I think with the paint stones, they're good to go, right? They
Yeah.
are, yeah, every report that I've had from every student that I've had over the years love the beam paints. They
That's how I
love,
went,
love,
because
love them.
to
Yeah,
me it was like, wow, it's already ready to travel anywhere with me in the little tin,
yeah,
and
yeah,
not worth it to-
absolutely. Yeah, I would not, yeah, there's no need for you to get the tubes. Um, at all. Did somebody else have a question? Oh, Kathy asked me, what's the name of the block you use to lift the masking fluid? It's, yeah, to lift the masking fluid I couldn't lift. It's a rubber cement pickup. And all art stores will have those. The other really amazing technical thing that you could use that you have with you all the time is your finger. So if you have the right masking fluid, then you can just pass your finger over top of the masking fluid and pull it off. It's just, you know, I never advocate too much for using your finger on top of paper because it deposits oil and it deposits the dirt that's on your hands. The same way I don't advocate using that to, you know, smudge things. Like you just don't want to use your finger, but you can use your finger. Just looking. Those, like I said, I did not use the Fumui brushes here. I used my studio brushes that I have, but those are really great travel brushes for the price. I'm also going to pop into the information that I'm going to give you guys over the next few days and onwards, some information on rosemary brushes, which are available through the UK. I love rosemary brushes. They are high quality, excellent brushes, well worth the money. So I'll give you the resource list for good brushes if you want to and you're ready to invest in good brushes, and I can give you, you know, a good idea of starter brush sizes to work with. But you know, for travel, like that small brush that I have in my kit has been with me forever. And I love that you guys have also, yes, regular erasers. Gary's saying work on masking fluid too. So there you go, straight from Gary. I haven't tried that myself because I'm feeling like they would also leave some residue there, but yeah, I put it away now. The rubber cement thing is, you know, $2, $3 maybe. It's not like a big ticket item, but it's handy to have in your kit. I'm a big advocate for professional quality paints, but I don't want you to have to go out and invest $250 instead of, I don't know what the Cotman kits are now, $60, $70. I don't know who's bought one recently. One of the Cotman watercolor. It's Anne. How much did you pay for it?
55.
55. Awesome. Yeah. So for $55, you've got enough travel paint in your hand, ready to go. And thanks to everybody that has posted, you know, archival older Winsor and Newton kits that you have. There's a lot of different ones of those out there. Lisa had one, I think, and Kathy, you posted your picture. Yeah. So it amazes me that they continue to evolve and develop the design for those. I'm amazed. But also be really aware when you go into an art store and you're picking up product, if you're being marketed to, right? So, you know, you don't need everything that the art supply people tell you that you need. Just get what you need. Don't, you know, you don't have to go overboard and have 25 colors in your palette or anything like that. Work with the ones that you have, get to know them, know where you're missing some, that you might have holes that you want to put, you know, a guest color in, like that opera rose. My God, that you cannot get a pink, hot pink like that anywhere except for the opera rose color. So you won't be able to, you know, mix some of those really bright fluorescent flowers that are out there. Explore the dry versus the wet when you're using watercolor. And that's like Gary asked me, like, I need help with how much water I'm using. I'm like, are you able to find now, Gary, that you're using more water or less water than what you had hoped?
I'm being a lot more careful with small pictures.
Yeah, right.
But I still have to, like, there's still a tendency to get the brush a little wetter than I need it. I guess the trouble is judging how much water I have on the brush before I put it on the page.
Right.
I'll just have to figure that out a little bit. Maybe dry it on the paper towel or something first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I usually keep a paper towel next to me when I'm working, and, you know, I'm doing that dip, dip, dab thing. And it's really, I would say, when you're working with the water, two things that are factors. One is the size of the brush that you're using, because it will, quote unquote, load heavier with paint and water if you have a bigger brush. If you have a smaller one, it won't load quite as much. So knowing what your brush size is and then playing with it, and really, honest to God, that is the only thing that you can do, because you can't really tell, like, until you're working with how wet is your paper, how dry is your paper, how much water do I have on my palette, for instance. Becky was talking earlier about using way too much pigment. So, you know, knowing when you're reconstituting your paints, how much water you want to use. And it's just, you know, another way to kind of practice that is through swatching. It's just swatch, 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 just like putting down squares of colors all the way.
What I did today is I had a scrap piece of paper that I would just test on before I painted on the other page.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which worked very well.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Yes, I do that as well. In fact, I know the watercolor board that I've used for 40 years. I've got it here. I think I might have shared this with people before, but you can, it's a big board because it holds a half a sheet of watercolor paper, but you can see like sections of the board where I've, you know, like put paint on, or old tape that's still stuck to it. That's being lazy and not having another piece of paper beside to work on. But often I'll leave big enough margins on a larger piece that I can like try a little bit and see, you know, have I got the saturation correct on the pigment, because it's just a matter of kind of figuring it out. Kathy's asking, what do you do when the paint with the salt has dried? And let me, you just mine's not totally dry yet, but I'll just show you where it's at. It's cooking. And you guys, you can see how see what's happening there with the salt. I probably, when we're done, I will use my my hair dryer and just dry the rest of it, because it's probably done its little journey by now. But just gives a nice texture and a little bit of sparkle to what's what's there. Let me see here. All right, we talked about toxicity. You know, work from light to dark, right? Build up your colors, build up your layers. Most of the time you want to let one layer dry before you go in it with the next one. And you can get caught there if you put too much pigment on the paper. It's just going to bleed into the next color. So, you know, again, that's about experimenting with your tools and materials and getting familiar with them. And that splatter technique that I showed you with the Misket, the masking medium that didn't work, it is a great way to actually provide some texture to your work and your pages. So use that splatter technique, try it out. The other thing that I used to do is take an old toothbrush or buy a toothbrush just specifically for painting and flick it backwards, right? Oops, sorry, I'm just doing the motion without actually showing you. So you flick it, oh, my thumb doesn't even work. Flick it like backwards, right? So you're not gonna flick it forwards, flick it backwards, because what happens is the little drops of water flip up in the air and then they come and they drop straight down on the page. So, but if you flick it that way, they kind of go out and you'll just get a different type of mark that you're making if you flick your toothbrush one way than the other way. So toothbrush, awesome thing that you can actually throw into your travel kit as well. Don't use the toothbrush that you're using to brush your teeth when you're away, but throw an extra old toothbrush in there. It's a really helpful little thing. Don't be afraid of bleeding your colors one into the other. That's what watercolor is all about. It's about that organic feel. I know most of us want to like color within the lines, but let it go. Let it do its little thing. Let it go forward. It's just like, I don't know, one of my kids said to me the other day, you're talking like Bob Ross. It's like happy little accidents and things, but that's exactly what you want to think about when you're working with watercolor, is that there are happy little accidents and things that you could never, even if you tried to reproduce right from the beginning, they'd never happen. So embrace the idea of watercolor. Don't try to control it too much. You'll find that you will learn so much about that. And the rest of it, I think I've got lots of resources here that I'm going to check and make sure and see if I've put them up for you yet. And if I haven't, I will. I will also do a new watercolor masking lesson for you when I can find some watercolor, real true watercolor Frisket medium. I don't know what this stuff is used for, so I'm gonna have to find out now. I'm really curious. I'm like, wow, I've been working with watercolors for years and I have never seen permanent masking medium and I don't know what it's for. So we'll all find out together because clearly we found out today. Yeah, and the rest of it, there will be like little Easter egg happy things that pop up on our group together. You'll get notifications by email if you've got those turned on. And I'm available for questions. If you have questions, just pop something into the chat for the group area itself and let me know what it is that you're missing or a problem that you have. If I can, yes, you should clean your brushes every time you use them, Mary-Ev. They will last forever if you do that. I will testify to the fact that I've got some brushes there that are 40 years old. That's how awesome they are. So if you take care of them, you invest some money in them and take care of them, they will last a lifetime for you. Anything else? Yes.
I have a question regarding water-soluble crayons and water-soluble pencil crayons. Like you can't mix the color right on the paper. it comes up somewhat, but you can't get the nice grays and the browns and that kind of thing. So should the crayons be chopped up and just put in a palette, or like how do you work with those?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that you can find out when you work on a big piece of paper and swatch away. They will leave a little bit of texture on the paper, like they won't be as fluid as your half pans or your liquid watercolors are. But they do have the other thing is embrace that fact that they do provide a bit of texture. Kayla, I think, did a painting the other day. Yes, look at that. We're like thinking the same thing here together. So Kayla, you used watercolor pencils for that? I'm just going to ask you to.
Yes,
Okay,
I used watercolor pencils.
yeah, and maybe you can post that up in this group as well, so
Okay.
Jen can see. But they served her very well. She used the nature of the medium itself to create that. And when you take the water soluble pencil crayons, or the crayons, and you layer the color, you have to get to know which colors to layer together to get those grays, right? So you need to experiment a little bit and create all these beautiful swatching pages, and then you'll know. And don't forget to make notes about them. Oh, I used this one and this one and this one to get this. And that's, having some intention around the idea of the watercolor medium itself, like using the pencils and using the crayons. And the other thing is, the other factor, Jan, is going to be your paper, right? So yeah. So if you use a very textured paper, like a cold pressed paper, then you're going to get that more textured look. However, if you're using a hot press paper, which is very smooth, you're going to get a different effect. So
That's the problem.
Yeah. And it's not a problem, right? It's the fact that it's just different. You're not getting the effect that you want. As my grandmother used to say, a weed is just something growing someplace that you don't want it. Right? So that's the same thing when it comes to materials, is that you have to kind of try and find those materials that will work best for you. I know Brenda in New Brunswick has been working with pastels, and I've sent her some paper, and I need to send her some more paper, because the paper makes the world of difference in when you're working with soft pastels. So, having paper that's not giving you the effect that you want, you need to kind of look and say, well, I need to use this kind of paper. And my gosh, there are so many variables. And it ends up being a bit of a personal preference as far as the paper that you use. I can say nothing but good stuff about these Arteza journals that I picked up on Amazon. I don't know if I have one that has but they come in all different sizes. And the paper, I've been really pleased with it. It's kind of a halfway between both worlds. I don't know if it's 90-pound or 140-pound, but it certainly works for journaling. And there's square ones. There's these little tiny ones, which I love so much, because I feel like I'm actually doing a lot of work. I might not be, but it feels like it. And then there's these ones, which are bigger. So that's the Arteza books. And they have a nice linen cover on them too, which is wow. I think most of the cost in those is actually on the linen itself, on the cover of it. I'm just looking back here. Dominique says, how long will the recordings and info be available? For a long time. I can't say a year or more. What I would like to do is take all of the pocket watercolor journaling people that have ever been in pocket watercolor journaling and move them into one group together, where, you know, there's some of these resource recordings that are going to be there. But you know, I don't really ever delete any of the videos. They're available and around. So if I do move you out of the group, you'll get a notification that I'm going to move everybody into one group together, so that those of you that have quote unquote graduated from this class can share techniques. I mean, the simple watercolor journaling, like the simple watercolor wheel area, you'll see in the feed, there's like everybody is involved in the same group there. If you scroll back through the feed, you're going to see a number of different, excuse me, color wheels that people have done with different pigments and different brands, which is really a helpful resource to everyone. If you're just like, oh, what would that look like? You know, somebody might have already done it. So you could go back and look at it. Although I'm going to say there's no substitution for doing those color wheels and that color mixing on your own. Lisa says, the Fumui brushes are really changing my watercolor on the road life. Try the Fumui. Oh, there's a website direct from China. Amazon was sold out. Thank you for letting us know that, Lisa. I have never seen them sold out, so that's great. But I mean, it's a testament to how good the product is. I really think for the money, they are great brushes. And yes, do I want you to keep submitting your efforts? Yes, absolutely. Keep posting up there. I'm going to keep posting. For those of you that are going on travel journal, like on travels upcoming, and you want to share your journals when you get back, you know, there's time and space to do that. Emily has a whole list of questions, which I think are some of the best questions I've ever had on creativity. I'm going to make, I think, a video just to try and answer some of Emily's questions that she has posed. If you have more questions, just feel free to drop them in there. I will respond to you guys as I can. And what I do is I take July and August completely off. So if you're not hearing from me in July and August, it's because I'm not online. So just know that I will get back to you whenever I can, or I'll just mark all posts as read if that happened in July and August. So save your questions for September, and that would be really super helpful to me. It's kind of like a dead zone for me. I just need time off from being online and farm work. So did I have any more questions from anybody? I'm just going to go. Janine, bye. No, she's already gone. So anybody else? If you can think of anything along the way, just let me know. If there are things that you would like to see included in this that sort of I didn't cover, let me know, but just be patient with me because I will have more things that I'm going to be posting up to help you along on your watercolor journey and getting you into the color, the whole idea of color and away from the drawing part. So, okay. Questions? Everybody's got what they need at this point in time? All right. I am just really grateful to spend this time with you guys. And I love how enthusiastic you are about learning how to paint and how to create and sharing your information and your world. And thank you. And I will see you all down the road, someplace, some in different spaces than others. And I'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this
Thank
beautiful
you.
video.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good summer.
Yes, everyone else, have a good summer.
Enjoy all the beautiful flowers.
Yeah, we'll see. They're all beautiful weeds right now.
Yeah, they'll be coming.
The dandelions, oh my word. I'll take a picture. You will be like,
wow.
oh my gosh.
I love seeing your photos of the farm. So please keep going. It inspires me.
They are much less idyllic right now. In fact, Kevin and I were talking last night. We're just like, oh, we give up. It's just not something we can keep up with.
Make salad.
Yeah, I know. Well, I could if I could chew it.
Dandelion leaves just steamed with a bit of olive oil and lemon juice are so good.
Are they?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like one of my favorite Greeks eating them like that all the time.
Because we pull them out, like I'm talking like they're massive. They're like 2-3 feet across.
Yeah, you just steam them with olive oil or just kind of saute them in a bit of lemon juice and salt. Oh man, they're delicious.
So I'm gonna maybe I'll do that for Kevin for dinner tonight.
I love dandelion leaves.
Because we have been just like putting them in a barrel and throwing them into the pigs, and the pigs love them. So
you got way too much.
yeah. Well, thanks everyone for the tips and tricks, and I will see you guys online.
Thanks for sharing all your beautiful knowledge, and it's a gift.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm happy to. Thank you all so much for your faith in me. Appreciate it very, very much. All right, I'll see you guys down the line. Yeah, see you soon. Bye-bye.